and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Chad McCanna.
And I'm Hyle Russell.
And this is part 2 of our week at Rare, which is not technically
part
a week.
Part
2? That's right. Yeah, we almost never do a two-parter, except for all the times in which we do a two-parter.
Well, I think in this case it's well warranted, because who wants a 4-hour episode, right?
Yeah, let's not have a repeat of last year's E3. We should be better about disciplining ourselves with time management on these things.
This is like a Peter Jackson extended cut, but what are you going to do?
All right, so when last we left us, we were going down to Twycross Town.
This is why these things take so long, Chad. It's because of the tangents we go on.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I did not mean to reference the Goblin King, who is definitely a character that warranted his own song and dance number. So the bus pulled up to Rare headquarters, and we all got off. And you were saying that.
I can't speak for anybody else, but I got off a little bit. Yes.
Oh no. Oh Hyle. No. Let's not begin it that way.
Too late. It's done.
There's no going back now. I saw the waveform happen.
As I said last week, I looked over and Jeff from off of Rare and Friends and from the DK Vine Forum, contest winner. Mm-hmm. He had tears streaming down his face, just like this emotion overcame him. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep it together. I'm going to play it cool. No big deal. It's just Rare. Come on.
It's just like my lifelong passion and fandom.
Yeah, whatever. But, so I'm not looking into the building as the doors open. I'm just kind of walking in blind. I don't know. Maybe my head's down a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just the out of body experience that, the nature of the event made me temporarily blinded. But as I walk through, I think I was one of the first ones through. I definitely
I reviewed the tape, and I wound up being the very first one through, but all of us were sort of milling around the entrance without wanting to really go beyond the doors. We were just all sort of overwhelmed, and
I think Bobby opened the door and may have said something like, "Okay, welcome to Rare," and I was like, "That was the name of the website." Once upon a time.
Right.
I'm sure I didn't actually think that, because holy fuck, we're walking into Rare. So,
you and I were the first to walk through the doors, and it felt very strange to wipe my feet on the Rare logo, but that was the welcome mat. But
did you yell first in a really obnoxious internet way?
Yeah, because of course, I am a citizen of the internet, and I have to. It was overwhelming, and everyone obviously everyone from Rare wasn't there, because one of the things that I came to learn was that it feels, not in an insulting way, but it feels smaller in person, because in the videos they use a lot of low angles, and it's this kind of grand studio, but it's really just a building, and it's remarkably architectured and decorated. But
the lobby is a lot smaller in person than you think.
But it was even smaller still, because it was filled with people from Rare. And there are 3 deckers of height and all the way up.
Yeah, it was like the end of Titanic. When old lady Kate Winslet dies and she goes to the ghost Titanic in the afterlife, and everybody from the ship is waiting for her. That's what it felt like. And, this is like the series finale of our Rare fandom. We have all died, and everybody just started, all the Rare employees that were in there, and it was just so many of them. They all just applauded for us as we walked in. And
I'm getting chills just kind of reminiscing about it, because I was on the very verge of breaking in the way that Jeff did. It was an emotionally overwhelming thing
and this is where I cried. I couldn't help it. It was just it just overcame, and it was just just a natural release at that point. And I was crying. I don't think I sobbed, but I was definitely involuntarily crying, which is going to be,
those emotions have to come out somewhere.
And by the way, involuntarily crying is going to be the name of my new Twitch series.
Yeah, that's you playing Donkey Konga 2.
Yeah, pretty much. No, and we just, I remember walking around kind of in a daze, shaking everybody's hand, but not really, there are no introductions to be had. I was like, hi, how are you? Hi.
Right.
Hi.
It was just, yeah, hello. I needed some kind of action to acknowledge the fact that all those people were there, but also just kind of make my way around and do something to distract myself from what would be like literally an emotionally overwhelming moment. We were all on the verge of not being able to function.
Yeah. And I remember, like, Bobby said, you guys can put your stuff down, because a lot of us had bags and whatnot. We can put our stuff down in the side room, and we walk into the side room, and they have all these games, like, framed game disc up on the wall. Like, I saw Ghoulies, and it's just this weird little side room, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you notice the Wii U with Super Smash Brothers in it?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so they that's where a lot of Rare employees apparently go to play games, and they play cross-platform because they're not like they're just gaming fans. It's really, really cool how open it, like, as we went through, it's like, you know, Rare was sort of, in a lot of respects, there were like what you would think of as museum artifacts and these displays of not only Microsoft stuff, but the Nintendo products that Rare has worked on. And everyone there is just like enthusiastic about gaming. There's not this corporate, like, overwhelming mindset there. It's really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, that's one thing I made note of is like they had all the Donkey Kong stuff was still up and about, and you know, it's really cool to see as a fan, you know, and as somebody who co-runs DK Vine, which celebrates both the Nintendo years and the Microsoft years. It was cool to see it still exist under the roof.
Yeah, and there were BAFTAs right there in the hallway that were sort of emerging out from the walls.
I had to tell you, it's like, Chad, you're gonna run into the BAFTA. You're gonna destroy. You're gonna like break the BAFTA. Watch out.
Yeah, it was like, because it's easy to miss because they're held up not by shells, but like, think of the monster from Peter Jackson's, another Jackson reference, The Frighteners. How that thing like came out of the wall. That's what's holding up these BAFTA awards. But yeah, thankfully they're very securely affixed to the wall, and I did not make a horrible faux pas by breaking a BAFTA.
I merely vomited, Chad. You broke their award.
Yeah,
but in the lobby, the most prestigious British award there is. Good job.
The Oscars of England. And yeah. No, there was also a statue of Banjo and Kazooie in the lobby. The reception desk was like all decked out with game logos from, I think, from everything in Rare Replay.
Yeah, it should be pointed out the Banjo-Kazooie statue was the one they had built right before last E3, and they had out briefly before the fire marshal told them they had to take down one of the statues. The statue. They brought Conker to the media showcase event, the party that Monday night, but they just left Rash up at the actual Rare Replay portion of the E3 show floor.
Yeah.
So we never saw Banjo-Kazooie in person.
Right, and it was the Banjo. You've probably seen pictures from, like, I think it was a San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
The one that ignored his personal trainer's advice and skipped leg day.
But it also kind of looked like a hybrid between the nuts and bolts design and the more classic design too, which I found interesting.
Oh, and Kazooie definitely was that kind of hybrid style, because it looked like the traditional Kazooie renders, but her little crest of feathers was much more, as opposed to the little wisp of furry shenanigans on the N64. It was like actual individual feathers a la nuts and bolts. It was a really cool design.
Yeah, so enough about the lobby. Well, Captain Bones was there. Captain Bones was there, we should point out. He was.
Oh, I finally got my Captain Bones selfie.
Yeah. I was happy for you, and a little bitter because for the longest time I had been the only one with a Captain Bones selfie.
Mitchell has one.
Of course he does. He's like a race car driver. He drafts behind us.
That's unfair to Mitchell Wolf.
I know. I'm joking.
It was crazy as we made the rounds. Though I was like, oh, I guess let's go on one more round, because it just seemed like everyone was milling around this reception area. And at one point, like, I heard my name and I looked up, and later we found out that on the hallway, on the second floor hallway, that's like where the audio team is. Robin Beanland was up there, and he like called my name and was just like waving at me. I'm like, oh my god, he remembers that I'm a person that exists. That's incredible.
He started playing Funky's Fugue for you, yeah.
Yeah, right. He's like, it's okay that you embarrassed yourself. I actually did write that song. I thought he didn't for the longest time. I was like, why did I say that? It was that he had written it for Killer Instinct, and then it got used in DKC. Yeah.
We actually talked about it that night with him.
Yeah.
Or that evening. But yeah, so eventually I think Craig Duncan was there, and I think he and Bobby eventually somehow corralled us all outside in the inter-barn area, which is like a dock or a faux dock on a pond.
Well, I asked Craig if I could have a photo when we were in reception, and he said, "You know what? Let's do this right." And so we all walked out there for much better photo ops.
And you've probably, if you follow Rare on YouTube and whatnot, you've seen this area. This is where they have the pirate cannon and flag up, and it's a very, very serene place. It's just I mean, all of Rare was just beautiful. I mean, the grounds itself is just so conducive for creativity. But yeah,
100 acres out there.
Yeah. This I just love that they have a little pond here with there was were there koi in there, and don't they have a squid or?
Well, that squid, I would be surprised if it's still alive. I don't know how well squid do when freezing temperatures come, but I think that was supposedly like a gift from Nintendo, wasn't it?
I love the thought of that. Like Nintendo, Miyamoto gave them a gift of a squid, and it immediately froze and died.
The koi we're going strong though, and I know koi live a long life, so some of those might be Nintendo era fish.
Okay. They're all Nintendo IPs though, so they couldn't legally reference them.
Right. The camera was always slightly above the water, so they wouldn't get those Nintendo fish in the picture.
Anyway, so yeah, we all took pictures with both the piñatas. These poor maintenance guys in the piñata costumes must have just been dying at this point.
Oh, were you around when we were still in the lobby and the piñatas finally came in the front door from like traipsing down the extremely long, and then Luis just comes out behind them and says, "It's Horstachio," in her Leafos voice.
Yeah.
It was like so surreal and I love that they're all such like fans of it that they lean into it too. It wasn't like she was putting on an act. It was just like, that's Luis O'Connor.
Well, yeah, and that's what's so refreshing about Rare is, I mean, they're not putting on airs in the game. Like they actually have the same quirky sense of humor that comes across. And they're all like actually fans of their stuff and each other's stuff. So it's not like it's obviously just a job for them, but it's more than just a job. It's still special to them, and it's still fun for them. And I think seeing it through our eyes as well really like kindled a lot of excitement in them. At least I hope so. At least I hope it wasn't just terribly off-putting.
No, I don't think it was. We all, I mean, even the folks that didn't come out on like the scavenger hunt or the dinner, everyone sort of had that about them. That seemed to be a fairly universal quality there, which was really cool.
But yeah, we all took pictures with the piñatas and Craig Duncan himself. My favorite Viva Piñata character, Craig Duncan. And again, it has to be pointed. We pointed this out last year at our week with the Rare episode, but Craig Duncan is like the coolest studio head. Granted, I don't know many studio heads, but
right. I was going to say that's a pretty sparse company in your mind, but at any rate, yes, he's a cool guy objectively.
He's a cool guy, but he's also a cool guy with a vision. And without getting too much on the soapbox here. For all of you who are still like saying Rare's best days are behind them, you've got no fucking clue. No. Craig Duncan, I think I would follow him into battle. He is just he's the man with a plan, and I really, really do just love what he's doing over there.
Yeah, so, he like eats, breathes, and sweats blue and gold. I mean, he is. Like he embodies he wears Rare branded footwear. I mean, it's
he
was
really wearing
cool.
a shirt. He was wearing a shirt with his shirt was Conker riding a piñata. I think a Horstachio.
Yeah, that was from their creative jam in 2015.
Yeah. But I just love that he was wearing it. And granted, he was probably wearing it because we were there. But I just like to think this is what they wear on a day-to-day basis.
I feel like it is, because when they post pictures of each other on Twitter, a lot of times, it's pictures of the grounds, or if Emma's at the helm, of the bunnies on the grounds. But you also get to see just candid photos of people working at Rare, and they're oftentimes wearing Rare branded stuff. They are all, as you said, they're just fans of the work that's been done there, even if it wasn't one of their projects.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, obviously Craig Duncan, has only been there for 5 years now, or
something
a
like that.
Little bit less than that.
Yeah, around the start of the Kinect Sports games. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely there for Rivals.
Right.
But yeah, he is. He's just embraced the totality of the history, and he understands what Rare is, and But that being said, he doesn't let it mire him in the past either, which is really refreshing. Like, it's a healthy balance, which I think you need. It's not just, let's make annual Banjo games or whatever. Granted, of course I'd want to see another Banjo-Kazooie game someday, but I like that, they're not afraid to try new things while keeping that Rare spirit. And,
you have to think of how the Pokemon games, basically they release one every year, and they alternate years of doing a port of a previous title, like an update, versus doing a brand new Pokemon game. But it's like clockwork, and I have to imagine that development process can't be too creatively engaging.
That came up a couple times talking with people at Rare. Just, they have friends at other studios who they literally make the same game year after year, just minor upgrades. There's some people on some art departments who just work, do the same designs year in and year out, and they're allowed to, at Rare you get to do something new, Yeah. And I think that sense that carries forward a sense of excitement. It's not just a dull job that's, just mired in drudgery. It's fresh and exciting, and that comes through in all the staff there, and I really think that has a lot to do with Craig Duncan's direction. So just not trying to suck up to him, but I was just really, really impressed as somebody who's been following Rare for so long. Granted, never had this level of access to it before, so I don't know.
I last year, after we met everyone that we did at E3, we both wrote like handwritten letters and sent them to the people, some of the people that we met. And
I wrote mine by cutting out magazine letters, and I pasted them, and that was fun.
You'll never find me, ha ha ha. It was a very strange sentiment.
Yeah, I had a nice chat with the police afterwards. It was cool. They let me hold their gun, but anyway.
No, the one that I sent to Drew Quackenbush, who I saw him in his office as we passed the doors, but I didn't want to bother him. But
no, we passed at the same time. He waved to us and smiled. And I was like, there's Drew.
Yeah, I was like, hey, it's Drew. I hope he's at E3 this year. I don't know if he is. But at any rate, he the one that I wrote to him, I found out way after we left E3 last year that he's like the operations manager at Rare. And as I was writing my letter, the one thing that I wanted to call out to him was that at no point in interacting with any of them at E3 did I get a sense that there was like a hierarchy at all. Like, you have upper management, the studio head, everyone from the community team, the production staff, people who are, well, at that point it was for replay largely, the art team. It seems incredibly democratic the way that they interact with each other, and that wasn't just because they were at a trade show putting on their best behavior. It was that same way when we were there at Rare.
Granted, I mean, a cynic might say they were putting on our best behavior because they had 14 weird people in their studio taking mental notes, but I that doesn't come across. Like, if you're going to be cynical about this, you weren't there. There's a level of genuine interaction that can't be faked. So, step off. Let us have our moment.
No, it really was kind of a genuine sensibility that we all felt. I have an anecdote for when we were out on the docks. And I asked Louise if I could say this. She said it was okay. So we were in between the two barns that One of them during
so weird
replays.
to say, we're in between the two barns, the barns, yeah.
Yeah, two of the four barns sort of flank this pond with the deck on it, and they have cannons pointing at each other. But or maybe the cannons are only from the Sea of Thieves side. I can't recall. But one of them currently houses the community team on the first floor and the incubation team on the second floor, and we never got to see the incubation area for good reason. They're they're probably cooking up whatever's coming down the pipeline next.
It should be pointed out at no time did we learn what else they're working on. So don't think we're ever going to reveal that or that we ever have that information, and we're we know it, but we're not going to say. We actually don't know.
No. This was a trip about Sea of Thieves. It was the hashtag Sea of Thieves contest. Then that's what it was. But there was, getting to see the studio itself was a thrill, probably on equal footing with getting to play the game. So it was like more than enough without needing to worry about the next project. But
although I will say, when the hour sessions were up, I was disappointed because I wanted to keep playing the game. So
yeah, I know it was like getting ripped out of a really good dream by your alarm clock. It was like all of a sudden the door to our booth opens and we're getting yanked out. No, but anyway,
and then you wake up and you're at Rare and you're like, wait, what?
Not so bad. Yeah, this is the opposite way most of my dreams go. Luis was saying that the barn that now houses community used to be the Conker's Bad Fur Day team, and at one point, Miyamoto was coming in to get a look at Conker's Bad Fur Day and seeing how the project was shaping up. And
that makes my side hurts laughing, and I don't know why.
Oh, wait, it gets better. I don't think they have like central AC, or maybe they didn't at that point, the air conditioning, but so
it's
they
weird.
have.
I'm sorry, but it's weird. I have to interject something. I never realized, and I don't know why, I never realized that Miyamoto stepped foot in Twycross.
Yeah, apparently he did.
I thought like Rare people would go out to meet him in Japan, but yeah, wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And to come see Conker, of all things, something that, a character that he never touched in his career.
Well, and especially because, maybe it was just a general visit with Rare, but because, Conker was self-published by Rare, at least in the States. So, it was like Nintendo didn't have very many fingerprints on that game.
Right. And so he was apparently just kind of, before seeing the game, he was standing out on the docks, just getting a lay of the land. Miyamoto seems like a pretty serene, in tune with nature personality, and Rare is a great place for that. But Luis said that day the build was broken, and Chris Seaver was just like swearing up a storm, just like a string of X, this fucking thing, this build, what piece of shit, and the window was open, and it's maybe like 20 feet away from where Miyamoto was standing, and I don't know if he was able to understand the English string of profanities, but I'm sure the sentiment was clear.
Well, I was gonna say, that's not the day he learned English. No,
I think Bill Trinan was probably with him and maybe declined to translate. I hope.
Because it was like, that's not like Chris Seaver wasn't Miyamoto's Rosetta Stone for English.
Right. No, Nintendo would have had a much more difficult time with some of their directs if that were the case.
That's really why they stopped the E3 stage shows, because they couldn't control what came out of his mouth at that point.
He learned from the best.
He's an impressionable child or a parrot. Yeah.
But of course, they got the build straightened out in time for him to actually get his way in. But I just the mental image of Miyamoto of Seaver inadvertently sweating bullets, but swearing up a storm in front of Miyamoto without realizing it is so hilarious.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. So and I double checked with Luis; it was okay to say that story, to tell that story. So I think it should be fine. But
did you check with Chris Seaver or Miyamoto? There's
I did not.
Other parties at play here, Chad.
Yeah. At any rate,
I know you have Shiggy on a speed dial, so
I do, and that's how I have his name listed in my phone. Yeah.
Oh my god, we're still at the picture taking portion.
Right. We got to keep this thing moving along. At one point, I guess was the next thing that we were taken up to the boardroom.
The boardroom, yeah. It was like a supervillain's lair. It was impressive.
Yeah, I guess boardroom's not the right. I mean, they don't have a board of directors. It's just like a big presentation meeting room.
Well, I think they called it the boardroom, but yeah,
Oh, okay,
I was certainly not bored.
So
sorry,
yeah, it's
Norm
cool
Macdonald wrote that joke for me. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, the chairman of the BORED. Yeah. Wow, old Conan reference. Yeah. So
on the Kongversation, what?
why would we reference Conan O'Brien? Yeah. So if I guess we sort of learned the geography of Rare over the course of the few days, but at that point. It was.
That's the thing. Eventually, we knew our way around, and they're like, I think by the second day, they just kind of let us off the leash a little bit, and it was just like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and so I was just like, oh, I'm going to the toilets, and it was just like. That's so weird that I know where the toilets are at Rare, and nobody's stopping me.
Oh, we also learned to say toilet.
Yes. It's not really. They don't have restrooms over there. No. They're toilets.
When we were in that 3-hour long dinner at the hotel, I asked a waiter, "Where's the restroom?" He thought I said restaurant. He said, "You're in the restaurant." I was like, the toilet. Tell me where the toilet is. It just sounds so vulgar from an American sensibility.
Right, because we're puritanical weirdos.
Yeah, of course. That's how we were founded, damn it. Yeah, so we got up to the boardroom, and it was cool because they were even telling us recent history about the studio. Like, just adjacent to that, there's a little nook where they did a few of the early Twitch streams. They dragged a couch in, but the video team had to cart in all this equipment from the other side of the studio over there, and it was like a multi-hour long process, both to set up and break down. And they would usually do their streams at the end of their workday so that they could hit like American time zones more effectively. So it was this whole rigmarole that ultimately they moved elsewhere, but. If you pay attention during those streams, you can actually see, like, oh yeah, that was in the background. That was in the background. That really cool comic book print of Banjo and Kazooie that that has like the end of game sexy grunty on it. That like we all got up and like took close up pictures of it because we had only ever zoomed in on the on like an artificially pixelated version of it from those Rare streams to really see what it was. It was like all those little details that we had only ever like micro-examined in minute detail from afar were now just in our face.
They also had like a big mock-up of the Grab by the Ghoulies game case and some other things in there. They had a lot of memorabilia that, they said, oh yeah, you can touch that, you could pick it up. And we're like, no, we can't like, get our finger oils on it.
Yeah, I'm going to deteriorate the plastic.
We were actually treating it like it was a museum. It felt so unnatural that we could pick some of this stuff up. And,
right. There was like a 64 DD was there, and it just
down in the canteen. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The one that was upstairs was this. It was like a Nintendo 64, like a Game Boy Advance player, or it was some like weird handheld console Nintendo hybrid that it looked chunky enough to be like a dev kit thing.
Yeah,
but they just had it sitting there.
I think it's what the Game Boy Advance team used to like play the games on TV or something.
Yeah, probably for testing purposes.
And then they had a what are those like? It's like a arcade machine that Nintendo put out, like a 10 Select or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never actually seen one in person, and Craig Duncan was like, you guys can play that if you want. It still works. And it was like, no, why would we play this? It was funny because we were all in reverence of it. And Amir was probably just like, oh yeah, I own all this stuff. I own one of those. I own one of that. But
no, I think he was like internally drooling the entire time.
Yeah. Somebody should have checked his pockets before they left. But
speaking of that, speaking of pockets being checked, like we were expecting for our cell phones to be taken up and be like patted down at the door. None of that happened. It was it was really cool. Like they were maybe negligently lax on security, but it was neat that they trusted us all. They said, okay, when we go in the barns, no photos. Don't take any pictures here. But
I think you're underselling it. Yes, we went into the barns, people.
Yeah. It was like we didn't know if it was going to be this like sanitized sort of public image tour. No, they showed us like the nitty gritty of how the sausage is made, effectively, and thankfully it came off much better than the literal making of sausage. But it was just amazing to peek behind the curtain, and they let us do that. They just said, all right, honor system, don't take pictures of this stuff. And of course we want to preserve our relationship with Rare, so we were on our best behavior as well, and it was just it was like a mutually trusting kind of thing.
Yeah, like I said, we only portion of the barns we couldn't see were the incubation team's floor and the community barns. So, but everything else, they showed us completely. They had to cover something up on the walls from us at one point, and I started reading it. But besides that, I'm glad I could spoil that for everybody. But yeah, the boardroom itself, it was amazing. They had like blinds that came down like. It felt like a supervillain's lair because blinds came down over the windows and doors, like when they're, I guess, for like delicate presentations where if, somebody had a drone on the outside or something taking pictures, you don't want that information leaking. So yeah, they had like these security measures, and I was very, very taken aback by that because I felt like they were going to gas us.
Joni turns around in the swiveling chair and he's petting a Persian cat.
Yeah, he's in an egg chair, and this was their plan all along, just to get the most obnoxious members of the Rare fan community in one place.
No, it was a lot of I think those shades coming down were also so that the imagery that you're about to see like pops that much more.
I mean, I'm sure there's that too, but I'm also you could draw blinds if you want to do that. You're not going to install this state of the art system.
Why not?
When you can do it on the cheap. Yeah, I mean, that's the budget that could go towards a game. Anyway, so
I don't know. I really like that. I think that some of those little minor efficiencies and just sort of comforts are a lot of companies that I'm in software. I'm in boring web software, but a lot of the companies that I've worked for tend to do exactly what you said and put the money all into the making of the product. But those creature comforts really do sort of facilitate a creative environment, and it's just little tiny ways for people to expend less mental energy on just getting the job done. They can actually focus on the task at hand and the creative work that's needed to go into the product.
Now there's going to be annoying people on the internet hearing this and saying, "Oh, Rare's spending all their money on creature comforts and they're not making Banjo 3E," and that upsets me.
No, well, those voices are best not engaged with, I think.
Anyway, yeah, they had like Kit Kat bars that you could just take in the canteen. It was fantastic.
We got water out of the Craig Duncan gave us water and soda like out of his office is like right next to Drew's, and they had apparently had like a really well stocked like soda and water fridge, and Craig is just like, all right, what do you guys want? The studio head of Rare was serving us drinks out of his private refrigerator. It was amazing.
It was so weird too because we didn't go into Craig Duncan's office or anything, but like just passing it, I saw Cameron's Rare Archipelago map up on the wall.
Yeah, and Drew had his up as well.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, that is surreal. That is surreal to see. So there you go, Cameron, the head of Rare, has your art hanging on his walls.
Yeah.
But at that point, we went down and we did a grounds tour before we went into the barns.
Yeah.
And oh my God, as a nature lover, Chad, like obviously, like Rare's appreciation of the natural world comes through in nearly all of their games, but to actually be on the Rare grounds and see the nature they have, it's terrific. It's just a nature trail unto itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, like we said, it's almost 100 acres of property. And earlier in the trip on Twitter, before we had met up with Greg Mayles at any point, he had tweeted the foot golf the course listing, and so
they have foot golf. But they have a foot golf course.
Right.
Which is it's like golf, except you play it with a football or a soccer ball. So it's self-explanatory. But
but it's like a 9-hole course. And the grounds are big enough to support that. That's just probably a fraction of the grounds, that big field that has the course.
I mean, I feel like a lot of the grounds have nothing on it. It's just a buffer space to keep people away, you know. But you know, they have that. They have a trail. They have like wooded areas. They have a trail that goes around. They have a tiki hut where people can just sit out in nature and talk and discuss ideas and spitball. Yeah, it's staggering. And like occasionally we would see Rare employees walking the grounds, just talking, you know, on the trail and whatnot.
Yeah, I think on the second day when we were out there playing foot golf, there was Adam Park and I think Pete Hentz and a few other people were just kind of ambling around on one of those trails. And it was, I guess they're doing an Aaron Sorkin walk and talk.
Yeah, they were mocking me and my lack of foot golf prowess.
Hey, I think we all did okay, considering we weren't wearing cleats and like Nike athletic clothes
like Greg Mails was. Yeah, Greg Mails, cheater.
We'll get to that in day 2, but
oh my god. So anyway, but eventually we got to see the barns, and as a longtime Rare fan, the barns are like sacred ground. I mean, all of this is sacred ground, but like the barns are just of legend. And in my head, I always pictured them as, you know, literal barns, like stables, like renovated, you know, just, and the name the barns comes from, you know, Manor Park, not Manor Park, but the original, Manor House.
Yes.
And when they actually had a barn, you know, for people to work in, and they carried forward the name, but these are actually state-of-the-art facilities, and they're not actually places where horses graze.
Right. Although, you know, just being in Twycross, it has kind of a farm sort of like you can, like, it's not a foul smell, but you can you can smell like the hay and the just the meadow. It feels like the air is crisp and refreshing. So it does feel like you're in the country.
Are you going to break into Paul McCartney's Heart of the Country? Are we going to do that again? Or
we might. You know more of the lyrics than I do.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you can't access the barns from the outside. You have to access them from inside, and there's a long corridor you go down to get into each barn. I mean, the security is tight, and that's something Craig even said. You know, even if somebody somehow evaded security up to that point, there'd be no way for them to actually get into the barns.
Yeah.
Which made us feel really special to be able to enter.
Yeah. There are these neat little you know, the barns are offset from the main building. There's the main building with reception, and then 4 barns sort of fanning outward. But despite the fact that those are disconnected building structures themselves, they have these like ant farm glass tunnels that
that's what I mean, the corridors. Yeah.
But they're completely, you know, clear so that you can appreciate the surroundings and avoid getting wet or snowed on while you're traveling around the studio. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's again, everything felt very open, and you know, and it's like I would say like the entire Rare grounds and whatnot were bigger than I thought, but like things like the reception area were much smaller, and it's just weird, like the size and the perception, how skewed everything was. But they made the most out of all their space, and everything just felt so airy and open and bright and lush, and wow. So the barns. Let's get to the barns.
Well, we
can't talk about what we saw in the barns, unfortunately. But
right.
We went into the community barn. For some reason, I didn't even realize that the community team were stationed in a barn. Like, I thought the barns were all just like strict game development. So like, that's where Lee Loveday works. We saw Lee Loveday's desk.
That we did. We went in there and got to see where the community team was sitting, and they had actually Nick Prohl. You mentioned Cameron's piece of artwork.
We can't talk about what's in the barns, Chad.
Nick sent Nick drew on behalf of DK Vine. He's one of our DK Vine staffers. This really fantastic Rare Replay themed Christmas card for them last year.
Yeah, it was Christmas card 2015. Yeah,
and they had it up on the bulletin board there. It was like, oh my god, that's incredible. They and there was a lot of other stuff that had been sent from fans. That they definitely love seeing that stuff and receiving it and putting it up there. So like I think if you have any artistic ability and you want to show your appreciation to Rare, send it over to the community team. I mean, they love that stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go in a pile.
Yeah. That's cool to see. Yeah, so it was the barns were all really pretty hot though. Like the corridor was pretty air conditioned, but yeah, it was like it was just I remember sweating quite a bit, especially the first day at Rare.
Yeah. Also stationed in the community barn were a few folks from the QA team, including Hugh Ward, who actually had on his desk a 25 years at Rare trophy.
Wasn't he there for 30 years?
Was it a 30-year? Oh my god! Yeah,
I think he's like the longest tenured staffer there, or close to it.
Him or Paul Makachek, one of the two, because those guys have been around since like the old, like almost the Ultimate days, I think. But
yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool. Like, yeah, Hugh was in there. There's one other person whose name escapes me from like the business intelligence or QA team, and then there was the community team. And you like at one point, Emma went and tried to cover up this whiteboard that had all the events for the next 2 days listed because we had all told her we don't want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And we didn't as you said, there's where Lee Loveday plunks out all his words.
Like that's where Scribes happened.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Well, hang on. Didn't we? I don't know if the community team has moved there recently.
Oh yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, yeah, I think they moved into a barn, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. For some reason, in my head, I always had Lee in the main building up to a certain point. So
yeah,
hard
because I
say.
think the story that was told during the replay days when they installed those cannons was a rivalry between the Sea of Thieves team and the Rare Replay team. So I think what's now Incubation and Community was at one point Replay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, whatever. That's still a desk where Scribes could have conceivably occurred.
Yeah, that was probably still the monitors, or, well, no, he probably used CRT back in the day. At any rate, Lee Loveday was sitting there working. It was incredible.
The fingers behind Scribes were there.
Why are we qualifying this? It was impressive as hell.
Yeah. It's, Lee Loveday's throne. Come on. And like I said, we can't talk about the other three barns. Saw a lot of cool stuff. Unfortunately, we have to leave it at that.
Right. Well, we got to see, I think we can at least say in a broad sense, one of the barns was kind of dedicated to design and doing. We did find out, by the way, we can at least say this much, that there are two versions of Sea of Thieves that are being developed in parallel.
Yes. A prototype and a more polished finish game. And I guess they used the prototype to kick around ideas, but
yeah, and it's kind of an ingenious. I've never heard of anyone doing this, but Rare has a much smaller team than Rockstar or Ubisoft. Like, they don't have enough people to make a Grand Theft Auto scope game.
I mean, they're not an indie studio by any means, but they've still got well over 100 employees. But yes,
right.
It's still relatively small in comparison to other major names in the industry. So,
but they get around that fact by this ingenious dual stream development where, as you say, they kick around ideas on kind of this prototype build that's not nearly as visually polished or flashy, but it gives them a sense of the underlying game mechanics and whether or not these things will work. And then if things seem to be working and they're integrating well with the rest of the features, that notion gets kicked over to the team that's working on what we know of as Sea of Thieves, which is built on the Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
And so they only devote those really dedicated audio and art and development resources to ideas that they are pretty firmly confident will make it into the final game. So that way they're really able to streamline and focus where they want to be spending their time. I'm not super well versed in how game development at a AAA scale is done, but I've never heard of anything like this before. And while we can't really talk about necessarily any of the ideas that we saw kicked around in that prototype build, it just the fact that they're approaching development in that way is, yet another like ingenious innovation on Rare's part.
The turnaround time for Sea of Thieves is just staggering. Like what they've been able to do in such a relatively short amount of time. Like I said, like it's a model of efficiency what they've got going on right now. So, I was kind of in awe of that too. And it's like, wait, what do you mean? There's a prototype build, and then one you kind of explained to you, and you put the pieces together as well. It was just, oh my god, it's incredible.
Yeah, and so one of the barns though was where you sort of you go see a lot of the design and development that's going into the Unreal build, and then right below is like as far as ideas go, like the belly of the beast, and that's where we first saw Greg Mayles for the first time on this trip.
We were in Greg's barn.
Yeah, he was down there with Shelley and Andy, and they were, and I think Mike Chapman was down there at the time.
Wasn't Chris Marlowe hanging around too?
Yeah, because he's an engineer on the team, so yeah, he was there too, and so like they basically like design and develop these ideas like in the space of probably less than a day, a few hours, and they're just able to keep that like continual like feedback loop and integration.
By the way, I want to point out, since we mentioned Chris Marlowe, he did serenade us as the great mighty Pooh, Chucky Pooh.
Yes.
He sang the song for us in the barn. I think I'm allowed to say that much. He didn't need much prompting, but he did it, and he would continue to do it throughout the next 2 days too.
And honestly, we all ate it up. I don't know if that commonly happens just while people are working, but it never got to the point where like, okay, Chris, enough. It's just like, oh my god, I'm listening to, in like stereoscopic hearing with my own ears. That's the great mighty Pooh.
Well, it's so bizarre cool too, because especially as I approach DK Vine, it's very much a character oriented website and community and fan culture. So we celebrate these characters. So to hear, the most identifiable part of that character is his operatic singing voice. So to actually have that come out of a real human being's mouth, and you're like, wait, he's not a real character, but that's the guy who does the character. Wait, what? It's just cognitive dissonance, and it was just wow. Anyway, back to Greg's corner of the barn.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much what it looked like. It was very adamant that this is sort of their sanctuary. But one of the features of that space that
which we know we can talk about.
We specifically asked if we could talk about this, and they said okay. Was they have on the wall there was this huge like wheel of human emotions, and like everything from happy, sad, angry, pensive, contemplative, like this whole gradient of the human experience essentially. And what they would do is, as they're trying out these new features, they after a play session, they all like take Post-it notes and put them on that wheel of emotions based on how they felt playing the game. And if it ever starts getting more in one corner where like they just feel frustration and anger, they realize, okay, even if we can't identify specifically what it was, we know that something in the latest build might have skewed the experience in a way that could pigeonhole it for some people. So they really want to make sure that Sea of Thieves gives you like a complete balance as far as what you feel over the course of playing the game.
One of the taglines we kept hearing is "Be the pirate you want to be."
Yeah,
and that philosophy just trickles down to every aspect of development, and you see it here. It's like you want to have the game experience you want to have, and obviously you're going to encounter stressful moments. You're going to, things are going to happen, but you should also be able to, if you just want to enjoy the experience of sailing out at sea, if, serenity was at the top of the wheel of human emotion. And I kept coming back to that because there were many times playing the game, I felt just this overwhelming sense of like calm and just taking in the beauty of the game world. And so that was terrific. Like that pleased me, because as somebody who likes to kind of take his time in games and like soak it in, really like get every last drop out of the experience, the Wheel of Human Emotion really placated any fears I might have about if the game is going to make me play it in a certain way.
Yeah. Well, from what we played of the game, it's pretty evident that it's doing its job. That whole way of approaching it.
Again, to get the full breadth of that, check out our YouTube video on the subject. So
yeah, we'll probably call that one Sea of Thieves First Impressions or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the kind of the design and I guess development barn, maybe for just the prototype. It's sort of unclear how it was all divided up in that sense, but what was very clear was when we moved to another barn, and that was essentially the art department.
Yes.
And so we got to see a lot of not only concept art being done, sort of static, texture elements and stuff, but also 3D modeling, animation. It was really cool to see how all of it was coming together.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the stuff we saw that will now be apparent with E3, showing off a lot of the things. So
yeah,
I'm really, as I say this, as again we're recording these 2 episodes slightly just before E3, just on the precipice of it. But
yep.
It's nice.
I'm waking up to go to the airport in 14 hours.
Oh my God, it's nice to. It'll be nice to see people's reactions, because like we were just all oohing and awing at all the art, especially some of the art in particular, like some of the designs for some of the things. I can't get into specifics,
yep.
But
I think we can at least say that things are being designed. I think
yes. But I remember at one point everybody just went oh, and that was a nice reaction to have. It was a nice reaction to see, because then you could see them responding to your reaction, and you kind of created a feedback loop of just enthusiasm in the team. So
yeah. At one point, I think it was that barn, but maybe it was a different one. Paul Makachek, who, as we said earlier, is like a long-time Rare veteran. He's the one who does all of the drone videos. I think he on Twitter, at least. I don't know if they make their way over to your world and Facebook, but he flies drones around the Rare property and gets some amazing like aerial photos.
What
and
you mean,
videos.
like zingers or neckies or Zubas, or what do you mean flying drones?
Yes, precisely.
You think he's been a Rare long enough? You think he'd upgrade to bosses, or maybe mindless idiots who ask for your help?
Okay.
Little forum humor, Chad. Little DK Line forum humor.
Yeah, one for the diehards. There, he never made his way up to Queen Banana Bird. You'd think after that long.
Well, you've got to become an admin for that.
So anyway, it was cool to get to shake Paul's hand and then kind of move on with the tour, of course, because you want to, like, everyone is there working. We don't want to disturb them. There is sort of a. It felt a little bit like. Well, no, it was like a better version of, in Jurassic Park when they all get in those.
Why did I know it was going to be a Jurassic Park reference or a Star Trek reference? Like,
right. With me?
Yeah.
Who could have guessed? When they get into those seats that are sort of moving along, and they watch the Mr. DNA video, but then they're sort of moving along, and you see these genetic engineers like busy at their work. The only difference is we were the Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum pushing the bars up and actually walking in amongst them, and getting to meet Henry Wu, the geneticist. Like that's what this trip was really like. Like, we thought it was just going to be sort of an on the rails. This is what you want to see. Let's play the game for a little bit. Let's talk about it and be done. But no, we got in there. We got to see people doing their jobs.
And I kind of felt bad for them because they were obviously on a time crunch because E3 was about 20 some days away at that point. And it's nice to say that yes, Sea of Thieves is at E3. Like. I think at
this point we can because it's already been revealed.
Right. Well, we're releasing this on the Monday of after it's been revealed. But yeah, we had to play coy for a couple of weeks. Where we don't know if Rare is going to be at E3. We're assuming Microsoft's going to show off Sea of Thieves in some capacity. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much had to do that by design, but yeah, it's nice to be out in the open.
Yeah, but yeah. So, at any rate, we saw the art barn, we saw like the design and some of the engineering going on. I think at that point was it that we took lunch, or did we go meet up with Robin?
I think before lunch. No, we played the game and met up with Robin before lunch.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, because we were still touring, so we got up to that.
At this point, they gave us our T-shirts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Of course, yeah. We got these. I played Sea of Thieves first shirts at Rare headquarters, which thankfully we got one for each of the 2 days because I like sweat through mine immediately.
Right. Yeah, your glands. You're a very glandular individual, and you just. Yeah, you're like a fountain.
Yeah, hyperhidrosis is a very fun thing.
Yeah, so yeah, but they're nice shirts, and they were fitted to us, tailored. A guy came in with a measuring tape, and but it was nice to have some shirts that fit. It's hard to get video game shirts in my size for whatever reason. Like you have to go to Fangamer, or you have to like get lucky. But yeah, it's nice. So we put on the shirts and I think we played the game first initially, right? No, wait.
Oh, well, you know what? We actually briefly toured the audio part before we played the game. We went and said hi to, I think John Vincent came out. He's one of the sound engineers. We said hi to Robin, of course.
John Vincent, by the way, in our notes, it should be pointed out that Jeff's wife, Mandy, had an undying crush on him.
That was so awesome. I have an undying crush on John.
Well, yeah, because in our notes, it says, because we obviously, like, this is a lot of names to go through, and while we can remember most of them, we didn't want to trip up, as I did, last E3, calling random employees Joe Need. So I, under John Vincent, it says audio engineer, comma, hunk. And
then comma Mandy's undying crush.
Right, because he is a very attractive man. He looks like some like a Highlander type. He is just very burly and masculine, and
there can be only one.
So anyway, yeah, John Vincent, the resident heartthrob of Rare, and met him,
and yeah, that's not to throw Jeff or Mandy under the bus. Like we were all sort of in awe of John Vincent's presence. He was a really cool guy.
It's machismo, yeah. That masculine musk, the scent was just in the air. All right, so
but we met Robin as well, and he played us a song that I don't know if by this point it's been revealed as part of the E3 hubbub, but it was like a version of the Sea of Thieves theme that's a tough one. That sort of had a twist on it that I probably shouldn't describe with too much detail, but it was really cool to hear the music that no one outside the doors had heard yet.
I had my little moment with Robin here because like it was a very narrow hallway, so we didn't have much room to stand there, so we were all trying to get in and hear Robin and see him. But as we were walking away, Robin finally saw me, and he was like, "Oh, hey!" And it was like, Robin Beanland recognized me.
Yeah,
and just that little visceral thrill, same thrill we got when we were walking to lunch with Mitchell Wolf at E3 last year, and
that's right.
we just encountered Robin walking on the sidewalk, and he acknowledged us and said hello, and it was like, Robin Beanland knows who we are. That was really cool. But yeah, we played the game at that point, right?
Yeah, that was our first experience with it. Basically, they had us in our shirts, and they had we got to change into those shirts, and we were basically separated. It was kind of the 12 of us. So, Mandy, unfortunately, I think Mandy got to play at one point later on, and so did Scott. But for the majority of the sessions, it was the 12 that were on the trip, and they divided us into 3 crews of 4 people.
Yeah, so our crew, the initial crew was you, me, Rodrigo, and Dan from off of Killer Instinct Central.
Right. And so we were kind of given some very basic instructions, which I thought they said don't move your character, but I think they actually meant don't touch the controller. But we kind of all picked up our controllers.
Well, okay,
okay.
It should be pointed out.
Yeah.
They took us down. Our crew was down on the bottom floor, and they took us into these soundproof booths. We were isolated by ourselves. Mm-hmm. We could communicate with each other with the Xbox headsets, but we were just completely isolated, just immersed in just this booth essentially. And they were
themed booths though. They had like these giant full size tavern doors with numbers on them.
Yes. And we could hear the in-game sound. But so at this point, we're picking up our controllers. The screen's not on, but we're picking up our controllers. We're pressing buttons. It's like I'm making my guy jump. I can hear him jump.
Like I think I'm landing on sand, and then like I can hear in my right ear someone else jumping, and so I'm like, okay, who's jumping now? Dan, it's me. And so like, okay, Dan's off to my right. Like we're trying to triangulate via echolocation, like where we all are in the world.
Right.
They haven't turned on the monitors yet. We shouldn't have been doing anything.
No. But it was nice because it was very like. I fall asleep every night with a white noise app on my phone, so I fall asleep to the ocean waves crashing or sounds of the rainforest, and so you got a lot of that. Just the atmospheric sounds. I was like, "Is that a monkey I hear in the background? I think I hear a monkey." Finally, though, they turned the game, or they turned the screens on. The game was obviously on, and. No direction. They didn't give us any direction. It was basically the only direction we had was a small like piece of paper on the wall that explained like what each button did. But besides that, we were off on our own, just left to our own devices. I think part of the thing was they wanted to see if we could figure out how to play the game without being told how to play the game.
Yeah. So more on that. I think we should preserve that for like the dedicated Sea of Thieves impressions. So
can we at least give our overall opinions real quick?
Of course we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Hyle.
Fucking amazing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, we're gonna get into greater depths on our Sea of Thieves YouTube video, but. This was one of the most immersive game experiences, sorry, Zelda at E3, that I've ever had.
Oh, don't make it a competition.
No. I was just making a joke because that was how Nintendo was billing.
Oh, the complete immersion at the booth.
Yeah. I initially, like, it took me a little while to get the hang of the controls because it was first person, and it's all first person. Mm-hmm. But, once I got the hang of it, it's just... It becomes second nature, and it's like you're not thinking I'm playing a game. As soon as you get the hang of the basic controls, like this button does this button does this, it's essentially you're in this game world. Go.
Yeah. Hyle, do you play many first-person games at all?
No.
Okay. See, I've been playing... I traditionally don't, but I've been playing a lot of Minecraft for the last couple months, and so I'm sort of...
Really? I haven't heard. I haven't heard about that. You've never mentioned that before.
It's strange that I hadn't brought that up at any point in the past. But yeah, I dabble in Minecraft these days. It's a first-person game, and that was initially something that... sort of kept me at arm's length with the title, and finally once I made the plunge, it's exactly as you say. I mean, if a game is immersive enough that, even if it's not a shooter, which I'm glad both of those games are not focused on shooting elements, you actually can be drawn in so much more. It feels like that's the experience you're having. And as you said earlier, the mantra, be the pirate you want to be. I don't think if it was a third-person title at its core that feeling would really work so much. You would still think of yourself as a pirate avatar.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is. This might. I mean, I want to play when we weren't playing the game at that point. Okay, here's what Sea of Thieves did to me, and I'll leave it at this because again, we have a lot more to get to, and we can save this for our video. But when I was not at that point, when I was not playing Sea of Thieves for the rest of the trip, I was thinking somewhere in my head about playing Sea of Thieves. I had to get back to it. I had to get back in that game world. It was that addictive. It was that infectious.
So it's like the final moment of Lost Season 3.
Yes. Wow, what is with all the Lost Rifts? Well, it's apropos because there is a lot of sailing in this game and tropical
deserted
locations.
islands.
Yeah.
Richard Alpert showed up.
I think we were playing the game and I made a smoke monster joke. So
yeah,
and they were recording us, so hopefully that gets in one of their videos. But
yeah, and hopefully ABC Disney has no problems with that if it does.
But yeah, I think this is a game I have been waiting my entire life for, even if I didn't realize I was waiting my entire life for a pirate sandbox-esque game, you know?
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, you know, until recently for Minecraft for me, and really at no point in your gaming history we've ever played anything even close to this style of game, something that's heavily multiplayer, that is like first person at its core, that's really more about the open-endedness and the experience rather than point A to point B. And yet, I mean, the Rare charm, it shined through the level of polish. It was just it was immediately apparent that this is what a modern Rare game is and should be.
Can we just say it's hilarious? I hear a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people on the DK Vine forum, even people just voicing concern. Well, it's not going to be funny. It's funny. It's hilarious.
Oh my god! There are some elements that we can't go into about areas in which the game is just hilarious. That but even in the build that we did play, the Unreal build, the really polished one there. I don't want to step on the dedicated episode too much, but grog abounded, and sometimes
there's drinking in the game. There is drinking in the game. Do not worry. Yeah,
there's a lot of drinking. I'm worried about what that might do to their ESRB rating, but it was so like fundamental to the fun that we were having. I hope it's something that makes it through to the final product.
And the thing is, like, you achieve something, you want to celebrate with your crew, so you have a drink.
Yeah, which does absolutely nothing for you in the game other than
gets you drunk.
Impair your controls.
And then it should be pointed out, we were playing in the same game world as the other crews.
Yeah. Okay, so let's save a lot of that stuff for, because that was one of the thrills of playing this.
Oh my god. So right. Yeah, we'll save that for our YouTube feature. But
cool.
We left we were ripped away from the game. And
yes.
I remember they opened the door and I was like, "No!"
Yeah.
And then where did we go after that?
Lunch, probably.
Yeah, I know they took us up to their tavern set and asked us some questions.
Right.
And then we
really well fabricated too. Like they had
I know.
there was a window that had a TV screen behind it that they were actually showing like some coastal footage from the game, just like a camera set up as if you were in a tavern in the game itself. And then like these styrofoam props that they seemed like they were proprietary. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and it had the angular style of Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really well designed area, and we got to talk a little bit about our experience as a group of 12.
Yeah. So I'm sure that will be popping up on Rare's YouTube channel at some point.
Yeah. That's one thing. We the whole time we were being followed around by a really nice guy with a camera. I forget his name, but apparently like it was one of his first days too.
I think I'm friends with him on Facebook now, so I should know his name. But yeah, he was a really nice guy. It was his first days at the studio, and he had to videotape us the entire time. Yeah, it was really cool. We eventually talked with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been a big Rare fan my whole life, so this is really a thrill for me too."
Yeah, and so we have no idea though of what any of that footage is going to be used for.
Right.
Presumably some promotional thing, but I'll be interested to see how it looked on the other side of the camera lens.
I hope I didn't have like spittle on my face, or like I hope like I didn't have
Oh no, Hyle, you had kale in your teeth literally the entire trip.
This is why Americans floss. This is why we floss so much. So we had lunch. We went down to the Rare canteen. It was Rare Bites is what they called it.
Yeah, BYTES.
Yes. And this is where they had a lot of memorabilia. They had a lot of Nintendo stuff down there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Donkey Kong stuff. I'll be putting up pictures of, I think I took pictures of every single item. For Memechi, they did have Mickey Speedway USA.
Yeah. He'll be thrilled.
But yeah, and is this where?
Yeah, I was going to say, among the memorabilia that we got to see and interact with was Chris Alcock.
Yes, they had Chris Alcock on the shelf. I felt really bad for him. This is his job now, that they just keep him up there. But
it's for morale, really.
He was able to get down. They gave him a footstool. He hopped down, and it was weird because there's different levels of being starstruck meeting these people. Some of these people, I was like really being introduced to for the first time. Others were legends in of the game industry. With Chris, I had a weird reaction in that I was like, "Oh, hey, Chris." Because for me, like, Chris Alcock he's a legendary Rare employee, but he's also part of the fan community. So he's a guy who hangs out in the Twitch chat, on involuntary twitching. He's
on Twitter constantly. Like I tweet with Chris about Minecraft. It's like he's just it's a really casual sort of relationship.
The first year for the DK Vine Hall of Fame, he narrated and wrote a whole chunk of it for us. And we didn't even prod him. We were just like, hey, can you vote for these characters? And then he sent us this produced thing, and it was just amazing. So when I met him, I was like, I was like really excited to meet Chris Alcock, and then I met him. I was like, "Oh, hey, Chris, what's up?"
Yeah, you had the same relationship with him as that frozen tomato has with Lanky Kong.
I'd like to think that somehow somebody at Rare knew, and that was based on the two of us. Yes,
in the future, yeah,
I'm the frozen tomato. Yeah,
yeah. No, it was really awesome. It was strange because like the food, by the way, was delicious. What was the vegetarian option? Did you have like curried lentils or something?
No, it was like some sort of soup. I don't know. I felt awkward because like at that point I'm like, I'm the only vegetarian here, and I'm like, oh, okay.
It all looked really good. I would have gone with the vegetarian option had the chicken parm not looked so good. But it was so weird because I sat down with Emma and Charity, and Charity is brand new to the community team. So nice. I'm so glad I got to meet her, and since she's relatively new too, it was kind of like comparing notes. Like, so how's your first few weeks been? She's awesome. I can't wait to see what she does with on the community team. I was also sitting next to, I think her name is Patty. She's an intern. I don't know if she's a community intern, but she was really nice as well. And so I'm like, not only am I trying to carry on a conversation with these incredible people, but also eat my lunch. And then Chris Alcock shows up, and it's just like sensory overload. I think I took maybe 3 bites of my food total, and I felt really bad for being wasteful. But
I don't think I finished mine either.
Yeah, there's just too much going on. It's like, Chris, pull up a chair, please.
I was thirsty like nothing else after drinking so much in Sea of Thieves. Like it makes you want to drink things, so which might affect its ESRB rating. So I was like, I think I got like 2 sodas, like and you can just go up and grab it, and I was just like, oh, okay, are you sure I can have this? This is weird. I don't work here. That was nice to have lunch, and then I think after lunch we played the game again, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But this time we split off into different teams. We were paired with Rare folk, and we played the game with them.
Right. We had I think on our team it was you and I and
Cameron
you and me, and then Cameron and Shelly.
Shelly, yes.
So yeah, they people who have been playing the game for a long time, and in Shelly's case, who has actually been designing it. So they were able to show us kind of some of the intricacies. Although it was cool, I love the way that they approached it. Like, they weren't just spoon feeding us things to do. It was like they were very delicately like directing us in such a way that like we would discover things on our own.
Yeah.
And they would
kind of laugh. They would kind of laugh when we did,
Right.
But
that one we can't go into too much. But
no. This one we can. Yeah, I mean a little bit. I mean this was they gave us a contest essentially.
Oh yeah.
Where each team basically the challenge was this was a much more aggressive play session where whoever sank the most ships would win a prize.
And despite the fact that those were the ground rules, you still wanted to be a pacifist at first.
Yeah, no, not for this play session. I was on board with the shenanigans this time around.
Okay.
Most of my play sessions, I wanted to be a pacifist because I wanted to explore. I wanted to chart undiscovered territory. And we'll have to talk about that in our YouTube video because there are some hilarious moments where like this collective groupthink overcame all the different crews, and we all just, without communicating with one another, we all just got on the same page. And then,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But so yeah. Anyway, suffice to say, our crew sank the most ships. So Team DK Vine.
Yeah, I'm shocked I don't think suffice to say anything. I am blown away that we blew away so many ships because we kept sinking over and over and over.
I don't know if did we sink that many times on this.
We sank at least twice on that play session.
But at least we gave as good as we got. So
yeah, better than we got.
Yes, clearly. So, we were the proud recipients of some vintage Rare posters.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Shelley and Cameron, who almost certainly carried us to victory.
Oh, but I got pretty good at firing the cannons by the end of it.
Yeah. No, we all did, actually. It was really cool how, and in that session, we'll talk about it more later, but we did a pretty even...
See, just talking about Sea of Thieves now, I just want to talk about Sea of Thieves.
I know.
I'm going to have to apologize to Michelle. I'm marrying her in August. I don't know at this point, we're recording when the game's coming out, but this is going to take over my life.
Right. Yeah, she's going to be a pirate widow.
Better than a Mario Golf widow, right?
So we basically we somehow got the most out of it, but we were throughout the entire time we were all switching up positions on the ship, so everyone got a little bit of a flavor of every role. You
always
that there
had
is
the
to
ship
play.
wheel, you bastard.
I was not on that one. No,
you're like, I'm the captain naturally.
That's not how it went down.
Captain Chad. I have to compare notes with Sebastian's dad. I'm Captain Chad. Captain
not
Chad
at all.
of the good ship McCanna. All right, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. No, Shelley was driving for a bit. I think you took the wheel for a spell,
never
didn't
took the
you?
wheel. I never took the wheel.
Why not? There were many times in which I was down manning the cannons and it was wide open.
Because somebody I was obsessively checking the hull, making sure we weren't taking on leaks. And I was I eventually developed into a rhythm where I was the hole plugger, lads. I was always the first one to man the cannons and get a few good licks in, which I'm proud. I eventually got the aggressive side of me out. And I also eventually was always on anchor duty too. Drop the anchor, raise the anchor on it. It's it's capstone. The capstone. I learned that bit of terminology.
Ooh. Yeah, so that was the second play session. More details on that on the Sea of Thieves first impressions. And then was that when we spent some time with Robin in the audio barn?
Wasn't that the second day?
Was it? Okay, they're getting a little confused.
I know. I think at this point, after we played the game a second time, we all kind of gathered our thoughts. I think they asked us a bit more about what we think of the game. Eventually, we if we're leaving anything out, we can just get to it on the second day, whatever. Because it's all starting to become a blur. But once we played the game, it's like BC and AD. It's like before Sea of Thieves and after Sea of Thieves. Because after Sea of Thieves hits, it's just like your life has changed. So
I know that some of these might make they're pretty pull quote handy lines, but that one's a little heavy-handed.
For me, it's not. I'm seriously obsessed with this fucking game.
I am too. It's not as significant as like AC or BC or AD. Okay, whatever. Anyway, it's an amazing
yeah,
game.
yeah.
AC/DC,
no, I know
yeah.
it doesn't have the driving.
I had to get the plug conversions.
It doesn't have the driving heavy rock sound of Dirty Deeds done dirt cheap, but it's still pretty close.
There were moments though where we would get musical stings when we fired on other ships, and so all of us were like, "Oh, I got music!" And we were just like chasing the music as the reward for firing on.
Well,
someone.
you knew you were doing a good job if you got the music.
Right. Yeah, it was really like, kind of dynamically triggered musical events. It was awesome.
But no, like this is a game I'm still frothing at the mouth. I can't wait to play it some more at E3.
Yeah, me too. We're basically going to set up shop at Rare's booth, I think.
I know. So, yeah, sorry, Zelda. So anyway, yeah, eventually we all gathered our things, and the Sea of Thieves, I guess we can say this, the Sea of Thieves shirts we were wearing had the new logo on it, so we couldn't be seen in public with them, so we all had to make sure we were covering up our shirts, or at least change into the shirts we brought in. And then we all went to a swank-ass Italian restaurant in Twycross.
Yeah, and that was actually, so when we all divided up the cars and everything.
The bus didn't take us to the Italian restaurant. We had to be driven by Rare employees. How weird is that?
Right. So like we wound up with Robin. Steve
Robin
McCorkle
Beanland
was with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was me, Hyle, Steve, and Robin driving it. He's like, "Oh, sorry about the smell. That's my beagle." And he said, "Oh, and Chris's too, Chris Seaver." So apparently they walk dogs together. Yeah.
Conquer himself. Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. Yeah, they're still buddies. Yeah. But yeah, so I was riding up front. I was riding shotgun with Robin Beanland in his car. You and Steve were in the back, and it was like Robin Beanland's driving us to dinner. Robin Beanland's talking to us. Robin Beanland's acknowledging our presence. Robin Beanland is breathing the same air as us. And
but by this point, I wasn't really thinking of him as Robin Beanland. You know,
but I mean, come on, Chad. Part of your brain was still thinking this is really cool.
Of course it was. But it was like that he was just sort of, so down to earth that it was.
Well, they're all so down to earth. Like, there should be some cocky assholes here. That's the staggering thing. Like, how is Greg Mails not walking around with the biggest ego in the world?
Yeah.
But he's not. They're all so humble and real and genuine. It's frustrating because they should be arrogant. And,
well, I think that's also part of just kind of the British sensibility is, you're very down on yourself, so you have a relatively even-keeled ego.
But I also think it's the benefit of living in a place like Twycross or the surrounding areas, because you're down to earth, you're humble, you're English country folk. Yeah, you just happen to make some of the greatest games of all time. Whatever.
Yeah. But razor sharp wit as well. And I mentioned earlier that Watery Lane anecdote. So as we're driving out of Rare, we pull onto Watery Lane, and I think Steve asked.
No, I asked.
Oh, did you ask?
I was like, because there was a sign up on Watery Road that said, or Lane or whatever, that said, this road floods often or something, so like be wary or something. Road is prone to flood. And I was like, do you actually have to deal with much flooding here?
And Robin just, like, without missing a beat, said, "What, on Watery Lane?"
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, just like it was. Steve was like, "That's it. We're with someone from Rare
in their car." Yeah,
yeah. It was so great. And then we got to the restaurant, as you say, very swank, very fancy. They're just like, "Hey, what do you guys want to drink?" And we all just kind of meandered around the bar. You and I got like 3 fingers of spiced rum, and and we were just chatting with Robin for, I felt like 20 minutes or so.
Just down at the bar.
Was there as well. Yeah,
John Vincent, and then Lee Loveday came with us. Lee Loveday came to dinner with us, and so at a certain point, I was just like, I felt bad because I was like monopolizing Robin's time, and there was Dan from Killer Instinct Central there with the composer of Killer Instinct, and I was like, Dan, I'm sorry, do you want to get in here? Like, I feel like I'm just taking up all of Robin Beanland's time.
Yeah. And you don't want to be rude, because like at no point is there a conversational lull, because they're just like, they're so amiable. But...
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, at a certain point, we all went upstairs and we had dinner, and you and I sat next to Mr. Lee Loveday.
Yeah,
and
we did.
we had dinner with Lee Loveday and other people at the table too. But I think this is where we finally were able to loosen up around Lee and actually talk with him like a real human being, and that meant the world that we got to have that experience.
Yeah, it was just a really cool conversation about we talked about like HTML tags for some like
we did, yeah,
just like
vintage web administrator humor,
yeah, he hand coded the Rareware website back in the day, and I mean it was a lot of fun to just talk to him, and like he told us we were talking about the movie Aliens at one point, the James Cameron one, and just. Yeah, really awesome, like, just a human being conversation, as you said, which at this point shouldn't be surprising because that's the common trend this entire trip is that these are all just regular people who are really talented and passionate about games. But that's what Lee Loveday was. No, and he, of course, knows kind of what he means to us, but he never let that knowledge, make the conversation awkward at any point. He was a really cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah, it was cool just to kind of talk with him and just reminisce about things that have happened in the Rare web community over the years, and just to have that, I don't know, have that conversation out in the open with him rather than like in emails.
Right. Like in emails with an at Microsoft.com, so it's like it was just a very open, candid kind of. He's seen it all, He's been there since '95, so it's
credited and DKC too, yeah.
Oh yeah, he clarified. He's like, I didn't write the story. I wrote the thing that went in the instruction manual.
Yeah.
He's like, that story credit's a little overblown. So I was like, okay, like we're finally putting together some of the pieces of these questions that we've had burning for so long.
The story being Donkey Kong is kidnapped and his friends are sad.
Right,
as you once put it, yeah.
It was the dinner was fantastic. The food was great.
Oh yeah, the food was really good.
Yeah, and it was cool because like we were sitting there pretty much with the whole community team. I think Emma, Cameron, and Bobby were all there.
Yeah, and Lee.
And Lee, of course. I don't think Charity came out to this.
No,
one.
I don't think so. Well, of course, unless she was at a different table. But it was at that point. I was like looking around trying to see who was at each table, but I was sitting next to Lee Loveday, so my attention was kind of diverted. Right. How cool is it that we can say we were driven to dinner with Lee Loveday by Robin Beanland?
That's a pretty cool sentence. I approve of that.
What the hell? Like, did you like? I don't know. It's just like it's like that. It's like that song. How did I get here? This is not my beautiful wife.
The Talking Heads.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're so old, Hyle.
That was a more timely reference than the Fonz you made last episode.
Okay. Fair point. 70s to 80s. All right, I'll take that one.
All right. So anyway, we broke apart, and the bus had arrived for us at this point. The bus was picking us up from the restaurant, so it was going to drive us back down to Birmingham. But we were milling around the parking lot, just waiting, talking with everybody, and I got to talk with Greg Mills a bit here. Greg came out to dinner with us at that point too. And just got to tell Greg like what he meant to me. Jeff and Mandy got to as well, but just got to say what I thought, just how much his games meant to me, how brilliant I thought he was. Putting him on the spot, embarrassing him, but I just felt like I don't feel like the Rare people get the recognition they deserve. So if I have a chance to let them know, I'm going to just once. It's just like a Band-Aid. You have to rip it off and do it.
Yeah.
So, and that made me feel better that I could at least share with Greg that I thought he was basically the equivalent of Shigeru Miyamoto. And
did you actually tell him that? Oh man.
The Western Miyamoto, he smirked and he kind of put his head down and he was like, "Oh, well, thank you. I'm just a guy who makes games."
He's really like unassuming and reserved, and so it's like I feel like he has like I have problems taking praise and compliments.
You do. I mean, you derail it for the both of us. Anytime we get praise, you immediately nip it in the bud, and you hurt my self-esteem by doing so.
Well, it's not meant to be a reflection on you. It's just that like I'm only as good as the last thing I did, and if I'm getting praised from something 3 things ago, you might as well not be talking about it.
I told Greg what I appreciated about him was he never stood still. He would always perfect an idea he had and move on. And he talked with me. It was like, the guy who wrote Banjo, that was 20 years ago. He's evolved as a human being since then, and who knows, but I respect that about him. I respect that he's not just playing his greatest hits again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, it considering the reception that like almost invariably that his games got, tragically Ghoulies is only now being appreciated for the brilliant title it is. But despite all of that, it must be so tempting to rest on your laurels, and Greg has never done that his entire career.
Yeah, and I didn't get to tell him to his face what Ghoulies meant to me, but I'm sure I wrote it in letters to him last E3. So
well, there's always this year, Hyle. You need your own Robin Beanland embarrassing situation.
I had it. I vomited in a Subway bag, and I'm sure all of Rare heard about it. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that's about even.
Anyway, we got on the bus, went back to Birmingham, and we were all just, I think, shell shocked at that point. Like,
right.
Did that day really happen? Mm. And did we hang out we all hung out at the bar again afterwards, the hotel bar, and just kind of soaked it in a bit, and I think we went to bed shortly thereafter.
A few of us did. Was this the night where okay, no, I'm thinking of one of the nights some folks from Rare were actually on the bus with us.
That was the second night. That was when we all went down to Birmingham to have dinner at the Indian restaurant.
That's right. Okay, so that's the night in which they were actually at the hotel bar too.
No. That was the Sunday when because they were still going over things for the presentations they were going to show us.
Of course. Okay, yeah. There was that one night when, the first night we all on the trip kind of congregated at the bar. We realized midway through that there was another table across the bar area that had like Andy and Shelley, Joe was there, Mike was there, and we're like, oh my god, what the hell are they doing at our hotel? Yeah,
so
pretty cool.
Yeah, the days start to blur together. Like, I just now remembered that the thing we did with Robin was on the first day. It's just hard to keep track of it all.
Well, so that one we can't discuss too much because it's sort of nebulous what we can and can't talk about from the game. So we're erring on the side of not saying too much.
Right.
But yeah, we got to see like the Foley stage, the recording area where Robin's got his whole setup. He let us play the bones. Basically, he made a musical instrument out of cow bones.
We talked about this at E3 last year, but this time we actually got to hold the bones and play them.
Yeah, and he taught us all how to play them, and we all did a decent job.
And as a vegetarian, I would normally frown on holding animal bones and to use them as music, but this is Robin Beanland. I'm going to take the damn bones and I'm going to play them, and I'm going to enjoy it, damn it. The studio was impressive. They had the Foley area where they made sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like the Putrid Pumpkin setup was there. So if you look at that Halloween episode or Halloween video on Rare's channel, you'll kind of get a sense of what this recording booth looks like. Also, that's the same place where they show the Rare Replay theme song being sung by the Rare staff.
Right. And the Putrid Pumpkin faux drum skin was still on too. I took a picture of that because I love that video.
Yeah. But it on that stage though, there are panels that lift up, and there's dirt, there's sand, there's there are these wooden boards, like pallets that you would truck grass, like layers of sod around, that are just like all over the studio, or all over this little studio, and there are different sizes of boots that people would wear and just jump around on the various stuff. Like every sound that comes out of Sea of Thieves is homemade there in that building.
Just think about how staggering that is. And yeah, they don't use they don't just like buy a sound library. They actually homebrew everything.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if necessarily, like, macaws are going to be
No, Chad, I saw the live macaws. They were there, damn it.
But at any rate, like, anything that is reasonably possible for them to create, they're creating it. They, even the musical instrumentation. I don't know if there's going to be any dynamic fading of music in the game, but if there is, they're certainly like recording those samples and syncing them up all there with, like, he had the hurdy-gurdy we got to see.
Oh, I love that thing.
The concertina. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
like
don't
it.
remember that one, Chad. Explain to me. Mansplain it to me, mansplainer.
Yeah, I'll manspread and then mansplain. It's like an accordion, but sort of a smaller version of it. It's sort of a pirate trope that there's someone playing a concertina. But he said that he went to a music shop. I think he said it was in Birmingham, and it was he intentionally got like the oldest, like shittiest, creakiest concertina that he possibly could, and used that for the music because, as he demonstrated by pulling out like a brand new polished up one, you really get this like wheezy texture to the sound by playing the old one that fits so much better in the Sea of Thieves world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like, even that kind of stuff they're taking into consideration.
And we were able to do something with Robin that we're not allowed to say.
Yeah. So yeah, everything was being recorded, so Rare can put whatever they like out there into the world at their own pace. But suffice to say, it was a singular thrill to spend time with Robin on his home turf.
Yes, yeah, and I was impressed with his audio setup too. Just the efficiency he could edit audio.
Oh yeah, he was like 8 monitors and of all these waveforms. Like I don't know what the name of the software was, but it was high tech and impressive.
It's like, this is what we need for the conversation. God damn.
What? You're not a fan of Audacity?
I mean, I'm sure Robin Beanland could work some magic with Audacity, but
Probably could.
I'll go with his setup. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway, the second day we got on the bus again, and it was funny because I think we were all just a lot more subdued the second day, and I made a joke. Oh, it just feels like we're going to work now. But I mean, we're still very, very excited, but I think it was also undercut with a little bit of sadness when we realized this is our last day here.
Yeah.
And so, like the visceral thrill was more replaced with this, like, we're trying to hang on to every moment that we can, And there were no pinata characters to greet us this time, sadly enough.
Yeah, Saber and Crystal were still out there.
They were. It was nice to see them still representing. We got in and got up to the boardroom, and almost immediately we were thrust into a game of foot golf with Greg Mayles.
Yeah, they split us into 2 groups. One group went and played Sea of Thieves for about an hour, and the other group, which was us, Mike from Pirate Port Radio was there. Who else?
Sebastian
was with us?
and
Sebastian
his
Scott.
dad. Yeah. And so basically, Greg Mayles is a foot golf enthusiast, and we were all just there. In the shoes and the clothes we brought. Greg Mayles decided to change into athletic gear and cleats.
Right, yeah. Well, he needs to look the part. It's his course. That was another thing that dawned on me midway through playing. We did the front 9, and then the reverse 9. Basically, you turn around and do the exact reverse of those 9 holes to get the full 18. We only had time for the front 9, but it occurred to me that we are playing a Greg Mayles designed game that very few people get to play.
It was funny too, because I was just thinking, playing golf, but with a what we call a soccer ball. That's very English. Like it would be like the American version would be taking golf but using a gun. And so I pitched to Greg a game called Shooty Golf, where you just basically fire a gun into the hole. And I said, Rare is free to use that. So that I'm hoping to see Shooty Golf as a multi-IP sports game at some point.
Yeah, that'll be the next Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Watch out, Mario Kart. You've got competition. And foot golf, man. Okay, so the grass was pretty wet.
Yeah.
Pretty wet, and it was pretty muddy from all the rain they get. So there was that.
I had to roll up my jeans. I wasn't quite prepared for it.
There's also the fact that, luckily I wore shorts that day, so I felt like at least I had that little advantage. But I hadn't actually played British football, soccer, I don't know what to call it, since probably junior high in gym class. So
yeah,
I just felt woefully inadequate, especially in front of Greg Males. It's like, oh, come meet your heroes and be humiliated in front of them.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that this guy worked on Kinect Sports.
Yeah. But
he was able to, like, the curve that he could put on the ball, like the basically the idea is that there are pins, but all you do is need to hit the pin. You don't have to drop the ball into a hole or anything. So, but there would be stretches on some of the, like, the par fives. There was even a par six where you really have to go around an obstacle, but he would just do it in one kick and curve it so that it would go around the obstacle in the air.
My ball kept going into the ditch. And that was usually the point that Adam Park and Peter Hentz walked by and mocked me. Like, Hyle, it's not supposed to be in the ditch.
Did they really say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we go way back. We've known those guys for a year.
I know, yeah. 365 days of torment. So at one point, I know both of our balls went into the wooded area, and I must have brushed up against some sort of bramble or something, because my leg was burning for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I touched. Thankfully, I had long jeans on, but I reached down to pick up my ball when it went off course, and in a completely different part of the field. But I got the same thing, and it didn't. It didn't seem like big rose thorns or anything, or like brambles as you would think of in DKC2. It's just this searing, burning, like, nettles that I guess just spread through my hand, and I was like, oh god, is this an allergy that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, I asked Greg, it's like, there's no, like, poison ivy or oak or anything in these woods, and he's like, no, but I'm not sure what this was, but it burned like a mother for probably 6 to 7 hours afterwards.
Yeah, thankfully it dissipated for me as well, but, like, it was on my hand, so I was trying to play Sea of Thieves with this. It's like,
it's a rare STD. Anyway, but I think we both fared a little bit better than poor Mike did.
Oh god, yeah, I don't know if he completely lost a toenail, but there was some blood.
There was a lot of blood. Yeah, he kicked the ball in a very awkward. Well, it was hard to kick the ball, especially after you'd been out there for a while, because everything was so wet. Your feet were soaked. My feet were soaked, and so I was just sliding around, and I think he slipped at one point, and I'm sure he'll relate the story whenever he tells his tales. But they had to take him in and patch him up. But and I think
he was a trooper, though. He was actually trying to continue with the golf game for a few holes, and he said, "Okay, no, this is just insanely painful."
I think obviously Greg won, and I think Sebastian came in second. So but Sebastian is also a big time soccer player. So he also had an unfair advantage over us pasty gamers, who...
An unfair advantage in that he practices and puts a lot of effort towards being good.
I'm an entitled millennial. That is unfair.
He's more of a millennial than you are.
No, he's like post-millennial. He's like whatever comes next.
That's the official name, whatever comes next.
Yeah.
But Scott also did very well on the foot golf course.
Right. Well, again, Canadians, as the Americans, we fare the worst. The further south you got, the worse we were.
So I'm bringing up the rear as a native Texan.
You did pretty well. Because it wasn't basketball camp, so you actually
shut up.
You actually came in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think it's the Southwest saved you, whereas Mike's from North Carolina, so he was the one who got grievously injured.
Yeah.
So
I feel so bad for that, man. It was pretty intense.
We should have played shooty golf. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No one ever gets injured by guns.
So Craig Duncan, Greg Males, if you're listening to this, shooty golf, consider it. Give me a call. You have my number.
Do not consider it.
You will not deprive me of this, Chad.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went in and played Sea of Thieves some more. I like how casual that sounds now.
Yeah.
We what else did we do this day? I know we toured another barn that day, which we've already discussed. Because
there were a few presentations that we went through, but we're not really at liberty to talk about the contents of those, but they did have some really well thought out, interesting presentations to show us. So that was really cool.
We got to sit in on a design meeting with Greg Males. Ooh.
Oh yeah. There was like a Q&A session down there in the aforementioned like the design dungeon. I don't know what to call it, but it's basically where the ideas come out of.
The X-Boy dungeon.
The X-Boy dungeon, right? Yeah, it was cool because I think Mike Chapman was kind of emceeing the event, but Greg was there, and I think Andy and Shelley were also there.
Those are his initials, so of course he was.
Yeah, however, there you go. He was born for it. And Joe was also in the back, making sure that we didn't kind of step into areas of the game that we were told at the outset. Like there are a couple things that are not part of the trip that they're not really prepared to talk about the game. And so Joe was making sure that we didn't accidentally tiptoe into those areas. But it was it was a really cool conversation we got to have, and that's where I noticed that Scott was really coming around. And we mentioned this in the last episode about kind of the vicarious experience of watching Scott as the days unfolded. And in that design meeting, which was toward the end of the second day, he was actually starting to ask questions that were more insightful than the ones that all of us were asking.
I liked how he'd always preface them by saying, I'm not a gamer, but... And then he was like, I just lay this like awesome question, and they'd be like, oh, that's a good question.
Right. Because he's coming at it from fresh eyes, but he's intuiting all the things that like took us years and years to come around and really recognize. He's a really intelligent guy, but I love that, he probably, I don't want to speak for him or for Sebastian, but he probably went into this as a supportive father. But I feel like over the course of it, like it sounds cliche, but the magic that is Rare and the way they make games, I feel like it must have made itself pretty evident to him.
Either that, or he got burned on one of those nettles and it just infected his bloodstream.
It could. There's literally no way to know.
Well, we could get, send him to a doctor and find out. But
too much trouble. They have a good medical system in Canada. I'm sure they've already taken care of it.
They do. Yeah. He's been de-rare toxified, so he's he's in normie again. So I wish we could talk about the stuff we talked about at this meeting with this session with Greg and Mike and Andy and Shelley, but we can't. Mm-hmm. But I think this is where I think if we could talk about this stuff, people who are on the fence about Sea of Thieves would be immediately won over. Like, this is so much cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really I don't know at this point. Like I said, we're recording this right before E3. I'm not sure what's going to be in an E3 trailer or build, but the some of the things that were discussed were so enticing. I can't wait to see them play out in the game.
I liked when we asked something that they didn't want to give away yet, and there was like a sparkle and a gleam in their eye, and you could kind of read them, and it was. Yeah.
There was one point where something was asked, and they had that gleam, and then they turned it back on us and said, "What would you guys like to see?" And so I feel like they were kind of taking mental notes of how on or off the mark of expectations they are. It was really cool.
Yeah. That was one of the highlights of the trip for me, I think. Just being in the kingdom of males and kind of getting a glimpse of just a little bit of that life. So
we completely skated over the fact that when we got into the studio on the second day, Adam Park was there. He wasn't around on
where the hell was he the first day?
I'm not sure, but I walked in. He was there along with Pete Hentz and Chris Alcock. They were all there to greet us on there wasn't the full regiment of Rare staff, but those guys made an effort and came down to say hi to all of us.
I was really relieved because I was afraid the first day when I realized I hadn't seen Adam or Pete yet. I was like, because those two guys really made an impression on me last year, and I was like, it would be a shame to leave here without seeing them, but thankfully they were around quite a bit the second day.
Yeah, I mean, listeners of the show will remember that Pete even deputized us for a very restrictive word of God on one small section of Grunty's Revenge.
Tipped up sweet, baby.
Yeah.
I just did a Facebook post about that the other day. I did one of my travel logs on Spiller's Harbor. I had a whole paragraph dedicated to the tipped up sweet. So thank you,
Excellent.
Pete Hens. So stupid.
It's nobody gives a shit what we consider canon.
No,
so stupid.
We're challenged on it all the time in our own community. Like, what gives you the right? So anyway, the second day, what else? We had a barbecue.
Yeah. Apparently that's like a weekly event in the summer, weather permitting.
I thought they just were putting on airs for the Americans, but I had my vegetarian option, so we ate outside and it was nice, and we eventually went up the what some people may know as the recreation staircase, and
that's how I know that Chris Alcock came to Rare as a fan. One of the first things he told me when we were in the canteen, he's like, "Hey Chad, look back there, look over there," and it was outside the canteen. You can see that staircase, and he's like, "You know what that is?" And it occurred to me, like, that's the recreation staircase. And that's exactly what he was referring to.
But yeah, you go up there and then you're up at the balcony outside the boardroom, which is really cool. It's really cool that I know the geography of Rare in my head now. Whoa.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit listening to this, but
now that I do know the geography of Rare, I'm going to make an effort with the DK Vinecrafters I'm going to try and reproduce Manor Park in the DK Vinecraft world at some point in the future.
I thought you were going to get really creepy with it, and like you're going to like make a model of it out of human hair or something.
Well, yeah, that's not what I talk about on the show.
At E3, what we're going to do is take hair samples of all Rare employees without them realizing it, and just recreate the whole building, the whole grounds out of their own follicles.
Perfect. So you were upstairs. You were up on the recreation balcony. And I was actually sitting down at one of the benches close to where they were cooking the food with Greg and with Mike Chapman.
Okay, yeah, I was up there. Chris Marlowe came out and joined us, and
I heard from afar.
Serenaded us once again as Chucky Poo, the Great Mighty Pooh, and
I think wasn't Mandy standing next to him during that? Because I saw one of the videos after the fact. We all kind of shared media with everyone on the trip.
She was the instigator this time around, and she also joined him in a pseudo duet as the for the conquer lines in the song.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we just sat around. It got windy and it started blowing our plates around, but that's fine. I did chase my Kit Kat wrapper. Anyway,
you can't pollute that beautiful property.
No, or else I'll never be invited back. So and then we had a couple more meetings. We saw the Conquer room, what they call the Conquer room, which is just, I guess, it's a smaller like boardroom type area where they have the Conquer statue that we hugged last E3,
right? And
they've also got like Conquer characters up on the wall, and just arbitrarily branded it the Conquer room, and which is cool to see. It's on the door. I took a picture of it. It's called Conquer. And we played Sea of Thieves again for the last time.
Right.
And this we'll get into this in our YouTube commentary or whatnot, but I think this is like the most magical moment playing the game for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's when because it was Dan, Rodrigo, you, and myself, and we just gelled as a crew, and we hit the point where we all knew what we were doing. We knew what roles to instinctively take. And it was like there's a rhythm to it. It was like playing in a band and everybody knowing which notes to hit. And
that's a really great metaphor. Yeah, we all, because it's, no one person can do everything. I mean, I think you can actually crew the ship solo, but you're going to be running around, like a chicken with its head cut off trying to get it all done. But when you have a full complement of players and you are all in sync, it really does feel like you're playing music together. It's just your collective instrument is a pirate ship.
And there's a level of camaraderie that starts to develop, and I felt it with the four of us. Like Dan, we met last year. Rodrigo, we had just met, and it was just like but we were all in this together, and it was just magical, and just sailing and being out in open ocean, and it was just I got chills, and it was so much fun.
I think for the most part, very briefly, we can describe the roles that we took. Like I was on helm for the most part, but because we wanted to keep the sails down, I couldn't really see anything. And so Rodrigo was up in the crow's nest on navigation.
Dan would stand out in the stern or whatever, and he would also give you a kind of a more a closer view of like down near the water level. And I was on deck, ready to man cannons. I was on anchor duty. I would adjust sails if need be, and in the event that we were attacked, blindsided, I would run under the decks and start plugging holes. And so I was just kind of a jack of all trades, just making sure the boat kept running. It was funny because talking with like Craig Duncan and Joe Neat and some of the other people, they said like it's funny watching people play the game and seeing the roles they instinctively gravitate towards and how it parallels either what they do in their own life or just the kind of person they are. And I don't know, I feel like on DK Vine I'm the guy who's like running around a lot of times, you know, like a madman trying to make sure everything is staying afloat. You know, and yeah, I could definitely feel that, and I kind of took on the same role, you know, so.
Yeah, and I kind of had I mean, in my own line of work, I have to sort of have a higher level sort of keep everything moving as a project manager. I kind of have to keep the train on the tracks effectively, or the ship upright. So, you know, it was pretty natural for me to, you know, to call out like, hey, how are we doing on nav, left or right, you know, and just sort of take that detached sort of oversight role. So that worked well for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But for more on, again, Sea of Thieves and our in-depth discussion of what we can talk about playing it, check out that YouTube video. I can't stress that enough. I feel like that's an essential component of listening to these episodes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, and when we went back down to the canteen near the very end,
right.
And this was kind of like a farewell to the studio itself, not to the rare folk, but like everybody came down. Lee came down, just like everybody came down, you know, to wish us well, and then Greg Males came down and presented us with our own pirate names.
Yes. Yeah, and we all get, you know, there have been tweets and stuff that, you know, there are definitely a lot of people who work at Microsoft and at Rare. We've been seeing that there's some pun pirate names, like Craig Duncan is the Duncan Sailor. You know, so we knew that they're sort of giving people these nicknames.
Joe Neat, 3 Sheets Neat.
Right. But it was amazing that they actually went to the effort to give every single one of us on the trip, even Mandy and Scott. Like Scott's was obviously captain oriented, but yeah, it like everyone got their own pirate name as written by Greg Males.
Yeah. So that, as far as I'm concerned, that's word of God what my pirate is going to be named in Sea of Thieves. And I view it personally as an ancestor of the character of you.
Oh, excellent. Well, we don't know when Sea of Thieves takes place. If it's in the golden age of piracy, or if it's sort of a modern day fantasy thing where there's just no technology. So yeah, you don't know chronologically where you and your pirate cousin Russell.
I'm assuming. Well, no, thanks for ruining the build-up.
Oh, sorry.
No. But I'm assuming that I'm assuming it takes place in the golden age of piracy. But yes, my pirate name is Cousin Russell.
Nice. Yeah, mine is Mad Chad. And what I want to do is at least temporarily, when Sea of Thieves comes out, I want to change my gamer tag, but I think I'm going to have a hard time getting Mad Chad, so I think I might go with Mad McCanna.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping maybe there's a way to. I don't know if you can, if it has to be your gamer tag when you're playing. It's not really divulged yet how that's going to work.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, you might be able to make your own name. I'm not sure.
Because, you know, there's some very non-piratey gamer tags out there. So I would imagine, you know, for the full immersion, you might want to, you know, come up with your own identity exclusive to Sea of Thieves. So that's to be determined. That was never a topic that was broached. But yeah, and one of my favorites was a couple spring to mind. For Sebastian, he was El Sebastian, which was just like one of the most Malesian jokes I think I've ever heard. I loved it.
Oh, speaking of Malesian jokes, briefly, one of the foot golf holes was called Pathetic, and it was only because you have to kick the ball over a path.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's a lovely Malesism.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cussin Russell. I'm very fond of that.
Yeah, you got a good one. Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, yeah, and then we all left Rare, and it was like an emotional moment. I think just leaving the studio, it's like I don't want to go.
I remember seeing we were all
like
piled in the
David
bus.
Tennant as Doctor Who. I did not want to go.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. When we were on the bus, I didn't realize that a bunch of folks were behind us. Greg, Andy, Shelley, Mike, Joe, like they were all piled in the back seat, and and you were like, Chad, you want to double up on the seat? I'm like, no, I'm going to spread out. And he's like, well, we might be kind of full. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who's here? And I turned around, and it's like the core Sea of Thieves design and production team is in the back of the bus.
Yeah, they all rode down with us to Birmingham, and we went to an Indian restaurant. Craig Duncan came. It's just a full dinner again with a lot of Rare people, and great Indian food, like some of the best I've ever had. The best I've ever had. That's not even a debate.
They say that, like, outside of India, the best Indian food is in the UK. And in the UK, the best Indian food is in Birmingham. And from what I was told, that restaurant is the best Indian food restaurant in Birmingham.
And out of that restaurant, our table had the best food in that restaurant.
Absolutely. And in fact, that specific appetizer was but it was just like basically outside of India, we were eating the best Indian food in the world.
Paid for by Microsoft.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Yeah, so wow, the times have changed. Thank you, St. Phil Spencer, for personally footing the bill for this.
He's like looking at this expense report. What the hell?
Why did Joe Neat buy like 5 umbrellas? What is the deal?
Yeah. So much tandoori chicken.
So and I got one of the what's the Indian beer called? Like the Kingfisher.
Yes, Kingfisher. I was gonna say Kirin Ichiban, but that's Japanese. Yeah,
I got 2 large Kingfishers, as did Greg Males. I was sitting next to Greg Males, and I had Greg Males on one side and Craig Duncan. Dan, Jeff, Mandy, and Craig Duncan, and I were all like grouped together. So,
awesome! I was sitting next to Emma, and across from Cameron, and next to Cameron was Chris Marlowe.
Oh, very nice. I talked. I mean, it was great. I talked to Craig Duncan for like 3 hours about DK Vine, about just like where we wanted to go as a site, and it was just
really?
Does he care? And he, yeah.
Man, we need to talk off the air about that. I want to know how that discussion went.
Oh yeah, he's shutting us down. Sorry.
Oh man, pulling the plug. Thanks, Craig. After everything,
and we just talked about the future of DK Vine, of future of Rare, and it was just like, what the hell? And and Craig Duncan, again, I can't stress enough, coolest studio head that I know. But I'm sure if I knew others, he would still come out near the top.
I had a lot of fun just having like really casual conversations about just like gaming in general with everyone at my table. Like I'm really into co-op gaming as I've talked about.
I'm into co-op gaming now.
You are now, yeah. You're a recent convert. But like I was talking about how one of the first things I ask when I'm confronted with a new game is it co-op? Because I want to play with Janelle and I want to play with people online. And Marlo was talking about how he wants to do the same thing with his kids, and he actually mentioned a game that I recently bought in like a Friends of Nintendo Humble Bundle called Runbow that I had kind of. It looked like an interesting concept, but I hadn't really given it much thought. And he was like, that's one of my favorite game experiences, like that and Tropical Freeze. And I'm like, okay, well, Runbow is on my list now. But it's, there was never a moment, as we said earlier, where the fact that they are Microsoft employees even entered the conversation. They're just gamers.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it was just like, and that was the point where I was less sad about leaving, because it was clear, like, we're still going to be in contact with these people. So it didn't, and that's something like Craig Duncan kept stressing. It's like, this is not the end of anything. This is just the beginning. And I was just like, right on. All right. Bring me another beer. It's time to celebrate. But then we went out for, well, what was supposed to be a pub crawl. It kind of crawled to a stop early, just because all the pubs were closing. But
right.
Because dinners go for 3 hours. But yeah, we went out for a pub crawl with Joe, Chris Marlowe, Greg Males,
Ryan
Mike
Stevenson
Chapman
came out.
Yeah, Ryan. I barely had a chance to talk with Ryan Stevenson. I said maybe 3 words to him, and it was like, oh, I haven't really talked to you.
Yeah, he's I don't know if he's like the art director. He's certainly one of the main art guys on the Sea of Thieves team.
Yeah, but like Mike Chapman, I think we're Andy and Shelley still with us.
They were, yes.
Yeah. I don't know, because I got we went back to the pseudo pirate pub, and I got a even stronger beer that they had on tap that day.
Yeah,
and wow, it hit me hard. And I was like.
Oh, there was my other. Before we get to the pub, there was the other Conquer impression anecdote that I had.
Oh, of course you have more than one. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So at dinner, by the way, Chris Marlowe was wearing a Live and Reloaded shirt that said "Looks like it's going to be one of those days."
I actually have that shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. And as we were headed out of the Indian restaurant, I just kind of right behind him, not making a big point of it. I just said kind of under my breath, "I'm gonna get tanked tonight," and he just let out this such a huge earnest laugh, and he said, "Yes." So I was like, "All right, I'll take that as approval."
Yeah, Chris really came alive during the pub crawl. I ended up talking with him a great deal. Dan and I both sat at a table with him at the second place. But yeah, it was funny because I got this really strong beer, and I was like, well, this is the only beer I'm having on this pub crawl. Luckily, it was only 2 pubs long, but well, it was a pub and a nightclub essentially. So at one point I had to use the restroom, and I don't think I'm out of turn saying this. I went down to the restroom, went to a urinal, and then shortly thereafter followed by Chris Marlowe, who went to the adjoining urinal, and we were standing at the urinals together, and I'm like, I'm taking a piss with the great mighty Pooh. How surreal is this?
Were there any fire imps running around?
Not that I saw, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was my cute little anecdote about going to the bathroom.
It's always urinal related with you.
Yeah, I know. I think it just brings people together. It's you can be of different social statures, but eventually you all have to pull down the zipper and just let her rip. So
they call it the great equalizer.
So anyway, and I went back up, and I'm not going to say who said this, but a couple people told me at different points in time that Rare listens to the Kongversation. Rare follows DK Vine, and we knew that to an extent, but to hear it again and from different people, they
check out the forums sometimes.
Yes, they it's always been a joke that there's spies from different companies, but there are legitimately Rare lurkers on the forum. So once again, DK Vine forum, knock it off.
On your best behavior now.
But yeah, no, seriously, they do monitor what's going on, and just to have that, and this was reiterated to me during this pub crawl, and I was just
Oh, there was one. So Bobby came out with us to the first one, and there was one moment where we were talking with Bobby that I think underscores how he's definitely one of us kind of a guy, where we were just talking about superhero movies, and
I was there too.
You brought up that the Russo brothers, who directed a lot of Arrested Development, also directed Civil War, the event Captain America movie, and they put the Bluth stair car in the background, and I said. I did, a kind of a shitty Ron Howard, and it said, "Now the story of a super soldier who lost everything." And Bobby picked it up and said, "And the Iron Man who had no choice but to keep them all together." And I was like, "Oh my God!" He just he might as well be a co-host on the Kongversation. He's one of us.
We'll get him on eventually.
Yeah,
friend of the show, Fatis.
Yep.
Yeah, and we were bitching about Batman v Superman a little bit. I hope I hope I can say that. I don't want to like ruin any relationship Microsoft might have with Warner Brothers.
The express views of Rare staff do not necessarily reflect those.
Right. There you go.
Whatever.
And then this pub was closing, so to drive everyone out, they started playing like theme songs from children's shows. They turned up the lights and they played the theme song to Rugrats, Thomas the Tank Engine, and I was just like, "This is just making me want to stay. What are you guys doing? This is fantastic."
Ringo then, made an appearance.
Yeah. Well, he was, but of course, you know the rest. So we all crawled to another pub, but I guess we had to settle for a nightclub, and they almost didn't let me in because I was wearing sneakers.
Yeah, trainers
as they called them. And I'm like, really? Like, what the hell? Like, in the States, this is perfectly acceptable. Like, you know, it's sports casual. You know. But they let me in because they were closing in like 40 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad you don't put on airs in the last hour.
At least we can get a few more shekels out of this guy.
But that's where Dan and I like just chatted with Chris Marlowe the entire time. And the lights were really distracting. There were a lot of drunk people in this nightclub. But what were you up to?
I was sort of floating around. I spent a good amount of time talking with Joe Neat up at the bar. I talked a little bit with Chris Marlowe. Spent some time just trying to, drink it all in. The fact that what we were doing with Steve McCorkle, who was on the trip. It was just it was nice because it was despite the fact that probably there were a lot of University of Birmingham students in there, and it was that nightclub environment. We all kind of everyone from Rare and those of us on the trip just sort of found our own little pocket in the place, and I just kind of
our own pocket tales, you might say.
Exactly. We're telling some pocket tales right now. I just sort of floated around and tried to make a point to spend some time with anyone that I hadn't really got to chat with on the trip. So I talked to Greg a bit, talked to Joe, talked to Ryan. It was just a lot of fun. It was a really nice way to cap off the trip.
Yeah, and I remember like near when the nightclub was getting ready to close or in the process of last call or whatever they refer to it as, the song Africa by Toto came on.
Yeah.
And that was just one of those weird moments, those crystallizing moments that you'll never forget. Because that for whatever reason, that song has always like carried significance with me because I associate it for some reason with Rare's Donkey Kong games.
No, for some reason, come on. Sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti.
That's your favorite line. That's your favorite line.
It's such a great line. It's actually the other great line in that song is, the moonlit beams reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. There's so much unnecessary poetic phrasing in that Toto song.
But it's great. It crosses over into the sublime. So like this is a song that I've always like kept on my various playlists and whatnot because it reminds me of Rare's Donkey Kong, which Donkey Kong Country is the game that made me a Rare fan. It brought me into this world. And so as we were kind of wrapping up our trip, here's this song just playing, underscoring this conversation we're having with Rare folk. And I'm just like, this is like the point where I would get emotional and just like, this has really happened. This is something that happened. 17 years has led up, I mean, more than 17 years, but 17 years on DK Vine has led up to this moment. And it was all worth it. Like it felt like there was never a wasted moment in that regard. Like all the time we'd put into the site, all the time we'd spent cultivating a community and doing these conversations, season 4 now, halfway through, it's like, okay, good. I'm glad we did it.
This is what it was for.
And we all walked back slowly to the hotel. And we all kind of said our goodbyes, took pictures, the Rare staff got a cab together, and all went on their way, and we went back into the hotel, and that beer had its effects on me, and I just passed out immediately without setting an alarm. Luckily, I woke up around 5 a.m. when the sun started pouring through the windows, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Because we had to be out like by 8, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I was much earlier than that. I think I had like a 5:30 or 6 departure.
Right, and a couple of us completely overslept after you were gone. Like, I know Olivier woke up. Steve woke up with like something like 5 minutes left. He just woke up, and so a lot of people didn't have time to shower because we were all just either like hungover or just exhausted, and like the adrenaline had left us at that point, and it was just, oh, now we have to go back to the airport and fly home, and the fun is over. And so it was kind of I made sure to sit in the front right seat in the chauffeur ride back.
Good.
And so did Olivier. And I think the others got nauseous, sitting back. Steve, Sebastian, and who else came back with us? Somebody extra. I think Alex came back with us that day. But yeah, they were all feeling like kind of rough, and I took a picture of them just looking like death, just as kind of a retribution, exonerating my previous sickness. But yeah, and then we all went our separate ways in Heathrow, and I marveled at the efficiency of airport security in a foreign airport compared to American TSA.
Oh. Yeah, the Birmingham one was similarly on top of their shit. It was refreshing.
It was like you didn't have to take all these unnecessary steps, and it was all laid out so plainly, and the security, they were so friendly compared to the, I'm too old for this shit TSA attitude. And apologies to any TSA officers listening to this. I'm sure you're lovely people.
You know what you did.
I'll throw away your shampoo bottles.
They threw away my hair gel. I had to pick some up at Sainsbury's.
Oh yeah. I know better than to pack any liquid. Like I will put it all in my checked bag. I will not even mess around with it. But yeah, and then took some pictures of the Beatles paraphernalia they had up on the walls in Heathrow, and went on my way. And
well, and on my end, it was kind of the same as the ride out there.
Well, like with Chris Alcock didn't stow away in your bag or anything like surprising like that.
Wait, how did he get through customs? No, I was.
Sir, you can only have an Alcock this size. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Your Alcock exceeds the overhead baggage compartment size. No, I was with Dan and Amir, and the flight was fully booked. So, thankfully we had arranged it so we were on the same row as well. We didn't get to spread out, but yeah, it was basically a 7-hour flight, in which we were, I think we maybe got half an hour of sleep between us, but we were all just so enthusiastic about everything we had seen. We were speaking in hushed tones because we didn't want anyone to overhear, like, oh God, there's a Kotaku guy in the seat behind us.
Well, Gawker Media's filed for bankruptcy, so
IGN, let's say.
Okay.
Something a little more stable. At any rate, we were cognizant of the risk of that, but we were still just like in hushed tones, just pouring through all the details of the trip, trying to unpack it all. And I don't think, like, in a 7-hour flight there were any lulls in the conversation. I've never had like a dedicated conversation with someone that long, although these two podcasts are encroaching on that.
Yeah, I just watched a documentary about O.J. Simpson. Because I had already burned through.
Oh, I thought that was like a yes and. That's literally what you did on the flight?
Yeah. No. I had burned through most of the preferred in-flight entertainment the trip over, so this time I had like a documentary about O.J. Simpson, an episode of River Monsters.
Did he find the Arapaima at long last?
It was something about like crocodiles or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I was like Retro Studios. I just tuned right out. Crocodiles, you see.
Crocodiles.
Yeah,
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and I landed, and it kind of sucked being back because it was just like I like when I go on trips, there's always that like desire. I can't wait to get back. But this was like one of the first trips I've ever taken where I could have stayed a few more days.
Yeah. Well, we went through a lot, but do you have any kind of final thoughts about the whole experience?
I'm pretty sure all the good people at Rare left.
That was evident.
No. Quite the opposite. This, I mean, I know skeptics out there are going to say, well, you guys are just so pro Rare because look what they just did for you. Of course, you're going to be biased and nothing you say holds any merit anymore. But, No, it wasn't like that at all. Like if there was anything to be critical about, we probably wouldn't talk about it, but we also would. I'm just going to say there's nothing to be critical about.
Just trust us in that never came up.
Like the fact that I'm bringing up there is nothing to be critical about. I wouldn't bring that up if there was.
Right.
Such genuine people, and the people who work at Rare, like. There's a lot of just misinformation and misnomers, and a part of that was just the problem with the levels of secrecy they once operated under. The people who've been there for all these years, like Greg and Robin and Louise, and to the people who were just starting, like Charity, and the guy, apologies because I can't remember his name, who was filming us the whole time.
Yeah.
So many good people, and they all get it. They all get the ethos of what Rare is supposed to be. One of the most heinous things I ever see talked about in online circles is that the people who work at Rare now are somehow different than the old guard. That they don't carry that same sense of mischief and mirth and that worldview that Rare games share. And now these people get it. They wouldn't be working there if they didn't. It's not a job to them. This is a passion, and to see that up close and personal in their natural habitat, it just solidified what I said last E3, that Rare is going to be okay, and beyond that, I think everybody's going to be in for quite a surprise when they get their heads around Sea of Thieves. It's just I don't like to throw around the word game changer, but I think this is on par with what Donkey Kong Country and GoldenEye did for Rare. Like bring them into a new light, bring in new fans of them, and also push the industry in a lot of unique ways.
Yeah. I would say to kind of encapsulate it all, it's along the lines of you, like very. I don't know. I've been trying to. I sort of had an emotional gut punch once I finally left Amir and Dan, and I was just on my own, taking a subway back from JFK Airport back home, jet lagged, of course. So maybe my emotional, maybe my stiff upper lip was weakened a bit. But I was trying to, like, why did this hit me so hard? I mean, obviously I've been a fan for all this time, but then it sort of struck me that, like, it was an experience I've never had before. The closest that it ever came was at E3, but that's a trade show, and something that I haven't really internalized until recently is that fandom, especially like a very niche fandom, it can be a lonely thing. If you're fortunate enough to have someone in your immediate vicinity, like on a daily basis, who is as intricately obsessive as you are about this sort of stuff, you're a very lucky person. I've never had that. The closest was when you and I lived together in Los Angeles, and we hated each other there.
And we also weren't playing games that year, so
right. So it's getting to not only meet everyone who was on the trip, who I'm now friends with as a result, getting to just share the same space with them, and then taking that experience and going to Rare, where we were literally surrounded by people who, I mean, you can look at them, you can see it in their face, and you can shake their hand, and like you are there breathing the same air as people who are the like-minded weirdos that we always call the DK Vine fan base. But that everyone who's making the games and who's a fan of the games are all cut from the same cloth, and kind of for the first time, I mean, what this trip showed me, what Rare gave me, was proof that fandom doesn't need to be so lonely, and that's something that that I think I'm never going to forget. I mean, apart from just the the unbelievable experience of seeing it, it's just as a human being, I know that the people at Rare and the people who are on the trip are like me. You know, I'm not just this person stuck, you know, I'm not a dot on a global map linking up with other dots online. Like, I was there among my people, fans of Rare, fans of games, fans of just this obsessive pursuit of the things that we're passionate about. That was an unbelievable feeling to be in the middle of.
What it did for me, I think, in a similar fashion, was it showed me that I said it was all worth it. Like the 21 years of Rare fandom, 17 years on DK Vine, that was all worth it because it led up to that moment. But it also showed me that the visit to Rare showed me this is the right path for me. This is what I want to be. This is who I am, and to have that reinforced from everybody there who treated us with such warmth and who know us now, and I was like, I want to be part of this community until the day I die, and even then I'm going to haunt people, and it's I'm going to show, you know, I'm going to show up and haunt their games like a shitty creepypasta or whatever you call those, because I'm old, but
and the whole time I'm sure you'll be saying thank you.
Yeah. But like it was just one of those, the most life-affirming moment I've ever had, where my life hasn't been a series of misdirections and trips and mistakes. It was, I was led here, and through my own intuition and the guidance of these people who I'm now meeting, I was led there, and I want to stay on this path, and I have walked since then. I have walked straighter with more confidence, with a puffed out chest, and I'm no longer so hard on myself. And Rare gave me that, so thank you. And there's a reason I've been a fan of you guys for so many years, and there's a reason why I will be a fan of yours until the sun dies and entropy
the heat
takes
death of the universe.
Yeah, entropy takes over the universe, and so yeah, thank you. I really don't like. There's no.
How
good
do
way.
we end this?
Yeah, there's no snarky way to end it. I could start sobbing if I went on. I'm not going to do that this time.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm getting misty on this end as well.
I also want to, I guess, thank our fans. Like, I don't want to make this just about us. I was there specifically because of DK Vine and because the community we have, and I wish I could have shared the experience with you guys. I hope in some small way we've done that with these 2 episodes. But it's made me recommit to, not that I needed much effort to recommit because I am locked in at this point, but it's made me really proud of DK Vine and proud of the community we have and the people, whether they're on the forum or in the inner circle or just following us on social media. I am eternally grateful for the people who have our backs, and I hope we can continue to carry forward for another 17 years and longer. So
longer.
Yeah. So hey, I said it was worth it, right? Maybe in 17 years we get to go back, and and it'll be Craig Duncan will still be there, but with a head in a jar on a spider body, because it's the future. It's the future,
Right, of course. That's what will be in vogue. It's not like his body died and he has to keep it together. That's the fashion of the times.
Right. So so seriously, to our audience, thank you so much, and I hope we haven't rambled on for too long.
Yeah, no, we definitely have. But yeah, thank you. It's just it's a lot of gratitude on our part. Emma, for the love of God, Emma. Oh my God, you put this together, Emma. Wow. amazing. Just we could go on listing thanks for everything.
Yeah.
But...
This isn't the Emmys where, of course, if this was the Emmys, you would say a bunch of stuff and then I would just be played off. So
you had your chance.
Yeah. No. Luckily, we both had our say. Yeah. Thank you, Emma. I mean, I'm not going to go through the list because I want to literally thank every person we met, and I hope we've done that sufficiently in these 2 episodes. But seriously, yeah, Bobby, thank you for corralling us all those days. Craig, thanks for inviting us into your home. Robin, thanks for wasting the petrol on us.
Yes.
Lee, thanks for humoring us, and I'm sorry if we were weird around you. I
don't know how we could have not been weird around him.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, Chad.
Neither do I.
So,
just everyone that we mentioned on the show, those that we didn't get to Rich Todd, I talked to him for a while. He's a PM there. Just
the prime minister,
the prime minister was there, and somehow Rich Todd has the job.
Oh, wow. Okay, what happened to David Cameron? Now, who cares? He probably got lost in a pig somewhere. Anyway, so.
Oh God.
Rare is there's a reason we're fans of Rare over every other studio, and it's not out of a misguided sense of loyalty. It's definitely was crystallized. We're Rare fans because Rare is special. It's a special place with special people, and long may it reign.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.